Chapter 1. Pain. Her head felt like it was about to explode. Her body felt as if it had been run over by a car. The burning pain spread throughout her body, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang struggled to open her eyes. When she saw the unfamiliar scene in front of her, she suddenly woke up completely. Where is this place? Her deep eyes flashed with wisdom. She clearly remembered that she had found a mysterious ring in the mythological beast's nest. Her blood had accidentally dripped onto the ring. Then, a gale suddenly blew and the sky changed color. When she woke up again, she was in this unfamiliar place. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She touched her head with both hands. Countless familiar, yet strange memories emerged in her mind, almost bursting her brain. After a moment, the splitting headache gradually disappeared. The confusion in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also disappeared, but her heart was shocked to the extreme. I actually transmigrated? Bailey Hongzhuang's face showed disbelief. And I even transmigrated to the Shangxian continent 1,000 years in the future. She was originally the youngest head of an aristocratic family in the Shangxian continent. Her talent was peerless, and her reputation was resounding. She never thought that because of a ring, her soul would transmigrate to the body of the Shangxian continent's Feng Bo country 1,000 years in the future. Coincidentally, this young lady was also called Bailey Hongzhuang. Unfortunately, as the daughter of the first wife of the general, she was not favored by the general. Her birth mother died early. Fortunately, she had an engagement with the crown prince, which allowed her to keep her position. She never thought that 3 months ago, she would suddenly become blind and lose the qualifications to become the nation's mother. Yesterday, the emperor announced the cancellation of the engagement. Bailey Hongzhuang could not take it anymore and swallowed the gold to commit suicide. Speaking of which, her good sister, Bailey Yuyin, also contributed to her suicide by swallowing gold. Yesterday, she had been comforting Bailey Hongzhuang under the guise of provoking her. She was afraid that Bailey Yuyin also had something to do with her becoming blind. Fortunately, her strength was restored after she transmigrated. What kind of broken ring is this? Bailey Hongzhuang cursed. From the stunning patriarch of an aristocratic family to a trash young miss, this gap was not ordinary. When Bailey Hongzhuang sighed, she lowered her head and her eyes suddenly froze. A black retro ring was on her finger. How is this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang touched the ring on her finger in astonishment. Did the ring come with her? At this moment, a series of footsteps came from outside the door. Then, the figures of a man and a woman cuddling together appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's sight. These two people were none other than Bailey Yuyin and Crown Prince Xianyuan Huan. Different from Bailey Hongzhuang's trash, Bailey Yuyin's cultivation talent is very outstanding. At a young age, she already has a reputation in Feng Bo country. It was because of this that the general's residence had long planned to let Bailey Yuyin replace her position. When the two saw the living Bailey Hongzhuang sitting on the bed, their faces flashed with a trace of surprise. They clearly heard the servant girl say that Bailey Hongzhuang was not breathing, so they slowly came over. How's she not dead? Good sister, why did you take things so hard? You actually swallowed the gold to commit suicide. Bailey Yuyin walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and pretended to care, but her eyes were filled with disgust. Yesterday, she said so much because she wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to commit suicide. Today, after hearing about this matter, she felt even more delighted. She did not expect that this trash actually did not die. Chapter 2. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered in her heart, but on the surface, she still pretended to be blind. With a weak voice, she said, Sister, Xianyuan Huan pulled Bailey Yuyin back, his eyes flashing with a lewd smile as his hands wandered all over Bailey Yuyin's body. Yuyin, this waste death is also a relief. Why are you still so concerned about her? If Yuyin hadn't called him come with her, he wouldn't have wanted to see this blind waste. He, the dignified crown prince, actually had such a fiancée who knows how many people secretly ridiculed him. With great difficulty, he finally canceled the engagement and could no longer see this waste, But he didn't expect this woman to commit suicide by swallowing gold. Towards this kind of crying, throwing tantrums, and hanging herself drama, he hated it the most. This woman was trying to use this kind of method to win back his heart. Bailey Yuyin's face was filled with a happy smile, letting Xin Yuan Huan do whatever he wanted to her body. But her mouth still said pretentious words. Your Highness, Hong Zhuang is my little sister. How could I let her do such a stupid thing? Yuyin, you're so kind. I really love you to death. Xin Yuan Huan's smile was brilliant. In front of the blind Bailey Hong Zhuang, there was a kind of indescribable pleasure. Bailey Yuyin's heart was secretly happy. While cooperating with Xin Yuan Huan's actions, she continued to play the role of a good sister. Crown Prince, if you say that, Hong Zhuang will be sad. Why do you have so many scruples? Xin Yuan Huan disdainfully looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang. If it weren't for the fact that Bailey Hong Zhuang is the general's legitimate daughter, I wouldn't have set up a marriage contract with her. The one I like is you, Yuyin. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at the dirty play in front of her and sneered in her heart. This Bailey Yuyin is really a white lotus, huh? In front of a person who failed to commit suicide, they can actually do such a thing without shame. These two people's characters are really amazing. Fortunately, the original Bailey Hong Zhuang was already dead. Otherwise, if she saw this scene with her own eyes, she might not be able to take it and commit suicide again. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at Xin Yuan Huan in front of her. Bailey Hong Zhuang admired him so much. In her opinion, this fellow was simply a lecherous idiot who made her feel nauseous from the bottom of her heart. If it wasn't for the fact that her body had yet to recover, she would definitely let this adulterous couple know why the flowers were so red. Xin Yuan Huan smiled mischievously and picked up Bailey Yuyin. While kissing her, he walked towards Bailey Hong Zhuang. Obviously, he wanted to let Bailey Hong Zhuang experience everything up close. Bailey Hong Zhuang's clear eyes flashed with ridicule and disgust. She picked up a round pearl hair clip and threw it at Xin Yuan Huan's feet. Bang! Xin Yuan Huan stepped on the pearl hair clip and threw himself forward. Bailey Yuyin was thrown away by him. Ah! Bailey Yuyin let out a blood-curdling scream. Her face hit the bed, and blood kept flowing out her nose. Her delicate face was also bruised. Xin Yuan Huan fell flat on his face. His whole body was sprawled on the ground. Where was his previous complacent look? Elder sister, what happened to you? Bailey Hong Zhuang sneered in her heart, but she pretended to be flustered and looked in front of her blankly. Xin Yuan Huan quickly stood up, looking very embarrassed. He reached out to help Bailey Yuyin. Chapter 3. Bang! With a dull thud, Xin Yuan Huan also slammed into the bed. Kacha! Another crisp, breaking sound rang out as Xin Yuan Huan's nose was broken. He immediately screamed. Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes flashed with sarcasm. Since it was you who killed the previous Bailey Hong Zhuang, then I'll collect the two of you as interest. Xin Yuan Huan painfully covered his nose as blood flowed out from between his fingers. The severe pain caused him to feel dizzy. Your Highness, how are you? Bailey Yuyin's pig-headed face was filled with worry. She quickly got up and looked at Xin Yuan Huan on the side. The two looked at each other with 2 lines of blood flowing out from their noses. It was a very funny scene. Damn it, Xin Yuan Huan cursed, glaring angrily at Bailey Hong Zhuang, his hand directly grabbing her neck. Bailey Hong Zhuang, did you do it? Bailey Hong Zhuang grabbed Xin Yuan Huan's hand with both hands, looking confused and innocent. Your Highness, I didn't do anything. Xin Yuan Huan's anger surged, but thinking that Bailey Hong Zhuang was blind, she couldn't do anything. He could only angrily throw Bailey Hong Zhuang away and roar. Bad luck. Bailey Hong Zhuang covered her neck and kept coughing, intermittently saying, You also think it's bad luck? I heard earlier that this courtyard was haunted. It seems it's true. Bailey Yuyin was startled and asked, What do you mean by that? I've lived in this courtyard since I was a child, and too many strange things have happened. This kind of inexplicable falling is just a common occurrence. In my opinion, My current situation might be because of this haunted house. Saying this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up, her pretty face showing a strong hope. Elder sister, can you help me talk to father and let me change my residence? Hearing this, Bailey Yin's expression changed slightly. Everything about the general's residence was good, except for the dilapidated courtyard where Bailey Hongzhuang lived. This was a very strange existence. Every time she entered, she felt extremely uncomfortable. Perhaps it really was a haunted house. It seemed that it would be better to come less often in the future. However, what she wanted was for Bailey Hongzhuang to not be able to make a comeback. How could he help her change the courtyard? Little sister, I will try to mention it to father. You know father's temperament. Whether or not it will succeed is another matter. Bailey Yin looked like she was in a difficult position. Her voice was gentle and full of helplessness. Listening to Bailey Yin's hypocritical, perfunctory words, Bailey Hongzhuang sneered in her heart. She was smart enough to push all the blame onto the general. Instead, she made herself appear gentle and kind in front of Xianyuan Huan. Yin, why do you still care about this guy? Xianyuan Huan's face was full of disgust. Let's go. At this moment, Xianyuan Huan really didn't want to stay here for a second longer. He, the dignified crown prince, had never been so humiliated. Most importantly, the pain from his broken nose was simply unbearable. When the two left, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a cold light. Since she had taken over this body, she was the general's residence's Bailey Hongzhuang. The pain that Bailey Yuyin and Xianyuan Huan gave her, she would return it to them 1,000 times over. Today's suffering was just a little bit of interest. Chapter 4. Bailey Hongzhuang checked the condition of her body. As early as 5 years old, she was already determined to be a cultivation waste, her dantian completely destroyed. Only, after her investigation, she found that her broken dantian had been repaired at some point. Although she didn't know the reason, this was a great thing for her. Only by increasing her cultivation as soon as possible, she could change this passive situation. She believed that after today's matter, Bailey Yuyin and Xianyuan Huan wouldn't come looking for trouble with her for a short period of time. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to cultivate, a childish voice suddenly entered her ears. This Xianyuan Huan is really too disgusting. I think that Bailey Yuyin is even more shameless. Another slightly shrill voice followed. The inexplicable voice made Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widen. In the entire room, there was no one else but her. Where did these two fellows come from? Who are you? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, her clear eyes cautiously looking around. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's question was like a stone thrown into the sea. No one answered because these two fellows were already quarreling and couldn't stop her. I said that Xianyuan Huan is more disgusting. I said that Bailey Yuyin is more disgusting. Xianyuan Huan is disgusting. Bailey Yuyin is disgusting. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her voice, interrupting the two fellows' quarrel. Stop quarreling. These two fellows are disgusting. Humph, umph. The two fellows snorted in dissatisfaction. Only then did they stop quarreling. Who are you? Come out. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly said. After a while, that childish voice was filled with a spoiled taste, saying in dissatisfaction, Master, you're so fierce. That's right, if you don't let me out, how can I come out? Another voice also sounded. Bailey Hongzhuang showed a puzzled expression. Master, let you out? That's right. Yeah, where are you? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. We are in the chaos ring on Master's hand. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze immediately focused on the vintage ring on her finger. She had transmigrated because of this ring. So this ring was called the Chaos Ring. Master, you only need to use your spiritual power to connect to the Chaos Ring, and you'll be able to enter the space within the ring. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's mind moved. She separated a strand of her spiritual power and approached the Chaos Ring. Immediately after, she felt her spirit shake as she entered a brand new space. In his line of sight, a huge palace with black and white colors stood there, and a sacred and powerful aura spread out. Heavy vicissitudes of life, solemn, and serene, it made people feel reverence from the bottom of their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure was reflected in the glossy walls of the palace. Standing in front of this vast and magnificent palace, she was so powerless and tiny. Her pitch-black phoenix eyes were filled with amazement. Bailey Hongzhuang said in a daze, "Is this the world within the chaos ring? It's really amazing." All this time, she only knew that the Qinquan bag had its own space and could be used for storage. She never knew that a piece of jewelry could contain such a huge space. Rumble, the heavy door slowly opened, as if it had not been opened for thousands of years. It was inexplicably shocking. Chapter 5. The main hall surroundings were painted with all sorts of strange and exquisite patterns, giving off a profound and mysterious feeling. It was empty, just like a small plaza. The two extreme colors of black and white mixed together in this place, giving off an indescribable sense of harmony. On both sides of the main hall, there were two passageways leading to the back. At this moment, that familiar and tender voice rang out once again. "Master! Master!" Bailey Hongzhuang looked towards the direction of the voice, only to see a black and a white unknown object rolling towards her. That's right. It was rolling over. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes opened wide, carefully sizing up the two little fellows in front of her, her expression suddenly becoming interesting. What appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang were two fur balls, one black and one white. Their entire bodies were covered in soft fur. At first glance, they looked like two fur balls used for decoration. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that these two fur balls had noses and eyes. Impressively, they were living creatures. Their two large eyes were like grapes, blinking as they looked at her expectantly. "Master!" The white fur ball called out softly, even rubbing against Bailey Hongzhuang's leg. The black fur ball was not to be outdone, immediately rubbing against Bailey Hongzhuang's other leg. "Master!" The white fur ball glared at the black fur ball. "This is my master! My master!" The black fur ball argued. Seeing that the two fur balls were about to quarrel again, Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly interrupted. "Which one of you can tell me? What is this primal chaos ring?" "I can." The white fur ball jumped up and said, "The primal chaos ring is an ancient divine artifact. Ever since the Shengxian continent existed, it can help cultivators to become peerless experts. Then, does my transmigration have anything to do with the primal chaos ring?" The black fur ball jumped up and said, when Master received the primal chaos ring, she had already dripped her blood on it. Only that the primal chaos ring had not recognized anyone as its master for many years. The fluctuations were too great, causing a spatial storm, which was why Master transmigrated. As the two fur balls fought to answer, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood the reason for her transmigration. She didn't expect that the ring she found by accident would have such a great background. Anyone who became the owner of the Chaos Ring would definitely become a peerless expert. She just happened to find the Chaos Ring and was recognized as its owner by the Chaos Ring. By coincidence, she became the young miss of the general's estate. She had also heard that there were inheritances or divine artifacts left behind by experts in the world, but she had never thought that one day a divine artifact would appear in front of her. Under the guidance of the black and white fur ball, Bailey Hongzhuang walked towards a stone room at the back of the main hall. It was said that there was an extremely powerful cultivation technique here. The stone chamber was very spacious, with only a high platform in the center emitting a misty black and white light. The dual-colored light constantly intertwined and changed, and a mysterious power spread from it, unconsciously attracting people's attention. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked up to the platform, only to see a book in the center of the dazzling light. The black-colored book exuded an aura of vicissitudes of life, exuding an alluring charm. Demon Summoning Scripture. These three simple and unadorned words seemed to be filled with endless power, causing people to not dare to look directly at it. With just one look, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this book was definitely not an ordinary item. Reaching out with both hands, Bailey Hongzhuang directly took the Demon Summoning Scripture down. Following the removal of the Demon Summoning Scripture, the light stopped flashing. Chapter 6. After a long while, the pain disappeared and the contents of the demon summoning scripture were imprinted in her mind. Looking at the demon summoning scripture in her hand, it had turned into a blank page without a single word. Bailey Hongzhuang then left the primordial chaos ring. The two black and white fur balls were unwilling to be left out and ran out with her. Ignoring the two fur balls, Bailey Hongzhuang ordered them not to leave the elegant Daylily Pavilion and began to cultivate in seclusion. After Bailey Hongzhuang understood the contents of the demon summoning scripture, her face was filled with shock because this was a taboo cultivation technique. Its cultivation speed was far beyond that of ordinary cultivators, and only the owner of the primal chaos ring could cultivate it. If it was someone else, it would be impossible for them to cultivate it. If they forced themselves to cultivate it, they would only end up dying. Cultivation techniques were divided into 4 grades. The worst was the unrated cultivation technique, followed by the star cultivation technique, moon cultivation technique, and sun cultivation technique. Among them, the majority of people cultivated the unrated cultivation technique. As everyone knew, the sun cultivation technique was the strongest among all the cultivation techniques. This demon summoning scripture was a level higher, and Bailey Hongzhuang had never heard of it before. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 1 month had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door that had been closed for a long time, and golden rays of sunlight fell on her body, bright and warm. An elegant smile bloomed on her jade-like flawless face. Bailey Hongzhuang stretched her waist. After a month of seclusion, she was not disappointed. As long as a cultivator stepped into the Hotian realm, they would be considered to have stepped through the door of cultivation. The Hotian realm was divided into 3 stages: Mysterious Earth Stage, Mysterious Origin Stage, and Mysterious Heaven Stage. Each stage was further divided into early, middle, and late stages. After a month of cultivation, with the help of the demon summoning scripture and her cultivation experience, Bailey Hongzhuang had successfully broken through to the middle stage of the Mysterious Earth Stage. Bailey Yin started cultivating at the age of 5 and now reached the late stage of the Mysterious Earth Stage at the age of 16. If Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation speed was spread out, who knew how many people would be shocked? After being in seclusion for so long, it's time to go out and take a look. Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with emotion and helplessness. Since she was 5 years old, she had never stepped out of the general's manor. She had even forgotten what the imperial city looked like. Moreover, she needed to purchase some things to cultivate, so she had to prepare well. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the black and white fur balls hurriedly jumped over. "Master, I want to go too." The 2 furry bodies quickly enlarged in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure moved, quickly dodging them. Bang! Bang! She heard 2 heavy voices, one black and one white, waiting for her. Their watery eyes looked at her bitterly. Bailey Hongzhuang face-bombed. Apart from being clingy, these 2 fellows also had a killer move, acting cute. In this 1 month, she had a deep understanding of this. These 2 fellows were simply the nemesis sent by the heavens. After rolling around and acting cute didn't work, they would act pitiful and act cute. But their watery eyes were just too lethal. "You really want to go?" Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly asked. The 2 fur balls nodded like chickens pecking at rice. The white fur ball nodded too much, causing its body to roll around. After discovering that it was no longer in its original spot, it quickly rolled back. Yes. Chapter 7. Looking at the 2 fur balls' determined appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang wrinkled her beautiful eyebrows. "You 2 fellows look so strange. If I bring you out, won't we be stared at by everyone? If someone is interested in you and directly snatches you away, I may not be able to protect you." Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed her chin with her index finger. "We have a way." The black fur ball jumped up and said. Immediately after, under Bailey Hongzhuang's astonished gaze, the black and white fur balls quickly shrank, turning into 2 beads, and jumped on top of Bailey Hongzhuang's head. They were like beads that couldn't be discovered at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth turned into an O. She really didn't know that these 2 fellows had this kind of ability. In this way, it would be a lot more convenient. Then you two fellows can't cause trouble when you go out with me. You can only communicate telepathically, you can't speak directly. Bailey Hongzhuang warned. If these two fellows didn't stop on top of her head and their voices were heard by others, then she would be treated as a monster. Understood? The black and white fur balls immediately nodded obediently. In order to be able to go out and play, they would admit to anything. Seeing these two fellows stop, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a comfortable smile. With these two fellows by her side, these days were a lot more lively. In the Imperial City, the 10-li-long street was crowded with people. There was an endless stream of pedestrians. The two sides of the street were filled with stalls selling all kinds of things. The sound of hawking resounded throughout the entire street. Walking in this lively street, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but have an illusion that it was still 1,000 years ago. Only, the two fellows who were constantly crying out clearly reminded her that she was no longer the Bailey Hongzhuang from 1,000 years ago. How about I give you a name? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. These two fellows spent all day together. If she didn't give them a name, it would be hard to distinguish them. The black and white fur balls looked at each other before looking at Bailey Hongzhuang expectantly. They still didn't have a name. The white fur ball will be called Xiaohei. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled with satisfaction. The black fur ball will be called Xiaobai. The two pairs of eyes that were originally shining with anticipation were instantly filled with disdain. So unpleasant. I'm white, so why do I have to be called Xiaohei? The white fur ball protested. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. To show fairness. Look, the black fur ball probably wishes that it was white. You might also like black deep down. I came up with such a name. It's perfect. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting smile. She was truly a fair and just master. No, the black fur ball protested. I don't want to be called Xiaobai. Your protest is invalid. Bailey Hongzhuang was still smiling. She didn't pay attention to the two fellows who were protesting. She really admired her own intelligence. This name was so good. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was wandering around, there was a noise in front of her, which attracted her attention. Look, Prince Chun is being bullied again. Alas, Prince Chun is really unlucky. He is handsome, but his legs are disabled. Now he is being bullied by the Crown Prince and others. Prince Chun has never been liked by the Emperor. This is a well-known fact. Who asked him to be unlucky and be the illegitimate son of the Emperor? Chapter 8. Prince Chun, illegitimate child? These two words quickly flashed through Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. She also had a certain understanding of this Prince Chun. If she was one of the jokes of the people in the Imperial City, then this Prince Chun should be the second joke. 3 years ago, the current emperor suddenly conferred an unknown man as a prince, which caused a great uproar in the imperial court. This man was Di Beichun. Even if the court officials criticized him, the emperor still insisted on his own way. He conferred the title of prince and gave him a reward. Since then, Fengbo country had one more disabled prince. For a time, rumors spread everywhere. Everyone speculated that Di Beichun was the emperor's illegitimate child. Otherwise, how could such an incompetent and disabled person become a prince? However, when the emperor knew about this rumor, he didn't come forward to explain. Instead, it seemed that he acquiesced. Over time, everyone tacitly agreed with Di Beichun's identity. She had thought that the emperor would be very fond of Di Beichun since he had given him a reward. She had not thought that the emperor would only treat Di Beichun well in the first year. Later on, the emperor's affection for Di Beichun became more and more indifferent. Di Beichun's status also plummeted. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked towards the noisy place. Perhaps she had the idea of being a fellow sufferer, but she was also a little curious about Di Beichun. After all, in this huge imperial city, other than Di Beichun, there was no one else who could be compared to her in such a miserable life. Walking into the crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang followed the crowd's line of sight and saw several figures standing on the second floor of the Zuetian restaurant. At a glance, she saw the figure that she didn't like. Xin Yuan Heng. Xin Yuan Heng looked domineering and disdainfully looked at the pale golden figure sitting in front of him. Di Bei-chun, if I accidentally bumped into you and pushed you down from the third floor, what would you do? Xin Yuan Heng's mouth curved into a sarcastic smile. His joking attitude clearly showed that he regarded Di Bei-chun as a plaything. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the pale golden figure with his back to the bottom. This person should be Di Bei-chun, without a doubt. If the crown prince wants to fail, what can I do? The faint and warm voice with a little sarcasm, like a breeze blowing through the heart, revealing a free and easy and indifferent. Xin Yuan Heng was startled and frowned. Looking at the calm face in front of him, he even suspected that he was the one being bullied at this moment. He hated Di Bei-chun's indifferent appearance the most. It was as if nothing could have any effect on him. It was as if he was the high and mighty one, and she was just a clown, a joke for him to laugh at. Big brother, what can a waste like him do? Second Prince Xin Yuan Jing didn't notice the undercurrent between Xin Yuan Heng and Di Bei-chun. He smiled and said, "Why don't you just push him down?" As soon as his voice fell, Xin Yuan Jing pretended to be careless and tripped over Di Bei-chun. With a push of his hands, Di Bei-chun rushed over the railing. Only the sound of the railing being broken was heard, followed by a golden light falling from the third floor. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. This Xin Yuan Heng is really a good-for-nothing. Di Bei-chun's crippled legs are already miserable enough, but Xin Yuan Heng still won't let him go. A touch of sarcasm filled her dark eyes. Wasn't Xin Yuan Heng's favorite thing to do the most? Whether it was her or Di Bei-chun, Xin Yuan Heng wasn't willing to let them go. Despicable and shameless. Chapter 9. However, the expected sound of a heavy object falling to the ground did not ring out. Instead, there was a cry for help. "Aya, big brother, save me." The panicked voice was trembling with fear. It was the voice of the second prince, Xin Yuan Jing. Everyone looked up at the top of the restaurant, and their eyes widened in confusion. Xin Yuan Jing was actually hanging on the broken fence of the restaurant, sandwiched between the second and third floors. He could neither go up nor down, so he could only anxiously call for help. It was unknown who started laughing first, but everyone could not help but laugh. It turned out that when Xin Yuan Jing fell, his clothes were torn, revealing his white butt, causing everyone to laugh at him. This second prince's butt is really white. A voice quietly came from the crowd, and everyone could not stop laughing. "Haha, today we've seen the butt of a member of the imperial family. There's nothing different." Normally, Xin Yuan Jing had always been arrogant and despotic, and bullying the common people was not uncommon. It was rare to see Xin Yuan Jing lose face, so everyone felt a burst of joy. Hearing this, Xin Yuan Jing felt that his butt was too cold, and he reached out to cover it. However, just as he let go of his right hand, his body slid down a little. He did not dare to let go, and could only ask Xin Yuan Huan for help. Xin Yuan Huan's expression was also very ugly. He originally wanted to humiliate Di Bei-chun, but he did not think that Xin Yuan Jing would make a fool of himself, causing him to lose face. He immediately impatiently called for his subordinates to go down and save Xin Yuan Jing. At this time, everyone looked at Di Bei-chun, and their expressions became even more strange. That was because on the ground where Di Bei-chun fell, there were two round fur balls. The fur balls stopped right below where Di Bei-chun fell, so Di Bei-chun was not injured at all. Today, everyone had thoroughly experienced what it meant to go for wool and come home shorn. "Damn it," Xin Yuan Huan spat and angrily said, "Whose fur balls are these?" As soon as he finished speaking, a white figure walked out from the crowd. Her beautiful face was filled with a faint smile. "I'm sorry, I just bought 2 soft cushions. I didn't hold them properly, and they rolled out. I hope young master won't blame me." Under the scorching sun, the white figure was dyed with a faint golden glow. Her elegant and refined face was as fresh and moving as a green lotus. The woman was wearing a long white dress that outlined her curvaceous figure. Her long hair was casually tied up like a waterfall, with a few strands of hair hanging by her cheeks. She looked lazy and casual. Her slender and long willow leaf-shaped brows were gentle and moving. Her pair of phoenix eyes were dazzling like glass, and her lips were vermilion red when contrasted with her skin that was smooth like white jade, causing others to be unable to help but sigh with emotion. What a peerless beauty! Xianyuan Huan's eyes widened as he stared at the familiar face. Why does this woman look so much like Bailey Hongzhuang? What's your name? Xianyuan Heng asked. I am Hongzhuang. The familiar name made Xianyuan Huan even more suspicious, but after a closer look, the doubt in his heart was swept away. Although this woman's appearance was somewhat similar to Bailey Hongzhuang, whether it was her temperament or other aspects, she was far from being comparable to Bailey Hongzhuang. A touch of amazement filled Xianyuan Huan's eyes. The woman in front of him was even more beautiful than the #1 beauty in the imperial city, Bailey Yuyan. Chapter 10. Bailey Hongzhuang's deep black eyes rippled with a bright light. Sure enough, as she expected, Xianyuan Huan didn't recognize her. In the span of a month, her appearance had changed quite a bit. She had always been treated harshly in the general's mansion. Since the engagement was broken off, she was even less valued. The food sent by the servants was getting worse day by day. Coupled with her depression, she had become sallow and emaciated. After a month of cultivation, her skin had become plump and her temperament and spirit were completely different from before. It was believed that even Bailey Yuyan would find it difficult to recognize her as Bailey Hongzhuang. She quickly walked to Di Beichen's side. At this moment, the black and white furballs were already complaining to her. They did not expect to be used as a cushion by Bailey Hongzhuang on the first day they went out. Young master, my cushion saved you. Shouldn't you? Before Bailey Hongzhuang could finish her words, the golden figure with his back to her suddenly turned around and a handsome face appeared in front of her. With this look, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly stopped. Even though she had long heard that Prince Chun was unparalleled handsome, she was still shocked when she saw him. The man's facial features were handsome. His eyebrows, eyes, lips, and nose were all exquisite to the extreme. His eyes were as clear as the moonlight, clear and bright. A warm and charming smile bloomed on this unparalleled handsome face. He was as handsome as a god, as if branded into the heart, unforgettable. Wearing a golden brocade robe, he was noble and dazzling. His temperament alone was far superior to Xianyuan Huan and the others. Miss, thank you for your cushion. A warm and pleasant voice sounded. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a faint smile. A touch of amazement flashed across his deep and bright eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly came back to her senses. Even after falling from the 3rd floor, Di Beichen did not seem to panic. It seemed that she had underestimated him. Reaching out her slender fingers, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a bright and cunning smile. Young master, my cushion saved you. Shouldn't you give me a reward? 100 gold coins. Hearing this, Di Beichen's eyes were also filled with a trace of cunning, but his handsome face was serious. Please help me. Bailey Hongzhuang was puzzled. What did this guy want her to help him with? The next moment, under Bailey Hongzhuang's surprised gaze, she saw Di Beichen lying flat on the ground. He said, Miss, you can fall again. I will be your cushion. We are even. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. Who had jumped down from the 3rd floor? This guy had a handsome and righteous appearance, but he was acting shamelessly in broad daylight. You are a prince. Don't tell me you want to renege on your debt. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichen. She wanted to take this opportunity to get some gold coins from him. She did not expect this guy to be so stingy. He even thought of such a shameless method. That's right. He was shameless. I am not a person who reneges on his debt. Di Beichen said righteously. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression eased a little. However, Di Beichen's next words made her want to jump up in anger. But I don't have anything valuable. Di Beichen bitterly pondered. How about I give myself to you? This one's skin is barely passable. Chapter 11. It's just a trivial 100 gold coins. Is there a need for you to sell your body? Bailey Hongzhuang suppressed her urge to explode as she spoke in a low voice. Di Beichen shyly nodded his head. Annoying. I'm already one of your people, and you're still talking about money? Talking about money hurts feelings. Seeing this kind of Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang's face turned stiff. She simply could not imagine that a king would be this shameless. For 100 gold coins, he was even willing to act cute like a spoiled child. It seemed like it was impossible for her to get that 100 gold coins. Consider it my bad luck, Bailey Hongzhuang angrily said. She had been tricked by this fellow's face before. After saying this, Bailey Hongzhuang picked up the 2 fur balls and walked out of the crowd. She really did not want to talk to this fellow anymore. Otherwise, she was afraid that she would not be able to control herself and push this fellow down from the 3rd floor. Miss, I'm already one of your people, so you should at least tell me your name and address. Di Beichun loudly shouted from behind. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately sped up her steps. This kind of fellow was too embarrassing. It was best if she did not know him. Shameless. This is the most shameless fellow I've ever seen. Walking on the streets, Bailey Hongzhuang had a face full of anger. It had always been her taking advantage of others, but today she had been taken advantage of by Di Beichun. This was too hateful. A certain person is even more shameless. He said he would bring us out to play, but in the blink of an eye, he turned us into soft cushions. Humph. It's fine if we're soft cushions, but he doesn't even treat us to good food. He's even more shameless. Humph. Hearing the dissatisfaction of the 2 fur balls, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed an awkward smile as she said, "You can't blame me for this. I originally wanted her 100 gold coins to buy food for you, but I never thought that fellow would go back on his word." Humph, I don't believe it. Xiao He snorted. I don't believe it either. Xiao Bai echoed. Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face showed a hint of helplessness when she saw how crafty these 2 fellows were. She casually bought 2 buns from the side of the street and handed them to Furball. Eat up. Looking at the steamed bun in front of her, her grape-like eyes instantly turned into stars. 2 thin and short hands stretched out from her fleshy body and immediately grabbed the steamed bun. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of smiles. These 2 guys were too easy to deal with. Xiao He and Xiao Bai had been living in the chaos ring for a long time, relying on their elemental energy to survive. They hadn't eaten anything for a long time, so when they came out, they had become 2 gluttons. Bailey Hongzhuang waited for the 2 fur balls to finish their steamed buns in an unnoticed corner before continuing to walk on the street. Master, that shameless bastard isn't simple. Xiao He, who had eaten, had long forgotten the displeasure of being treated as a cushion. She earnestly explained the situation to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. How is he not simple? That fellow's mental strength is very strong. If I'm not wrong, he's also very strong. However, for some reason, his cultivation has been suppressed quite a bit. Xiao Bai added. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She wasn't surprised by this result. No wonder that fellow didn't panic when he fell from the 3rd floor. It was because he wasn't afraid at all. His cultivation has been suppressed? A thoughtful look appeared in her deep eyes. Di Beichun has been acting strangely ever since he appeared. His legs are crippled, and his cultivation has been suppressed. I'm afraid he has many secrets. Chapter 12. Very strong. Xiao He and Xiao Bai answered in unison, making Bailey Hongzhuang even more certain of her conjecture. Di Beichun was at most 3 years older than her, but his strength was so strong, it could be seen that his cultivation talent was high. Even the famous genius of Fengbo country was far from comparable. This could only prove that Di Beichun was not simple. Forget it. What does that guy have to do with me? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and turned to walk into the medicinal shop. 10,000 Medicine Lane, the largest medicinal shop in the Imperial City, had a complete collection of medicinal herbs, and basically all the medicinal herbs needed could be found here. As soon as she walked in, Bailey Hongzhuang smelled the medicinal herbs in front of her face and immediately judged which medicinal herbs were fragrant. Spirit gathering grass, vitality fruit, blood clotting grass. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curved into a shallow smile. A sense of familiarity surrounded her. In the past, she liked to study medicine the most and immersed herself in it all year round. So at this moment, she felt very familiar. 10,000 Medicine Lane's shopkeeper, Ji Wenbin, was sorting out the medicinal herbs, and after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang say the names of the medicinal herbs with her eyes closed, a look of amazement appeared on his face. Miss is really amazing. Your judgment of medicinal herbs is not wrong at all. Ji Wenbin praised. He took care of the medicinal shop all year round, and after a long period of accumulation, he practiced the ability to recognize medicinal herbs by smelling. The girl in front of him was only about 15 years old. How could this not be surprising? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Shopkeeper is overpraising me. Miss, how can you know so much about medicinal herbs at such a young age? Ji Wenbin curiously sized up Bailey Hongzhuang. He had always been partial to medicinal herbs, and at this moment, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, who was well-versed in medicinal theory, he felt familiar at first sight. Looking at Ji Wenbin's excited look, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this shopkeeper was a person who was obsessed with medicinal theory and asked this question out of curiosity. I have studied medicinal theory since I was young, so I know it very well. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In that case, Mrs. a doctor? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, confirming Ji Wenbin's guess. In her previous life, several of her elders loved to study medicine, so she spent all her time with medicinal herbs. After that, she received the teachings of her elders, and, at a young age, she received the title of divine doctor. She had always been confident in her medical skills. The amazement in Ji Wenbin's eyes deepened. This young lady was already a doctor at such a young age. Her future achievements would definitely not be simple. Miss, what do you want to buy? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang sizing up the medicinal herbs on the counter, Ji Wenbin asked, The medicinal herbs in my 10,000 medicine lane are always complete. I have most of them here. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Looking at the medicinal herbs and the prices, her eyes quietly filled with doubt. Why is this price so unreasonable? Frowning slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang did not say anything. Since the 10,000 medicine lane clearly marked the prices, it should not be wrong. Could it be that the prices of medicinal herbs 1,000 years later and 1,000 years ago were so different? White dew grass and sky fairy were clearly the cheapest medicinal herbs in the past, but the prices here had increased tenfold. On the other hand, some medicinal herbs that should be more expensive were abnormally cheap here. It was too strange. Chapter 13. Shopkeeper, this star spirit grass is sold for 1 silver coin? Bailey Hongzhuang suppressed the excitement in her heart and calmly asked. Ji Wenbin nodded. That's right, the star spirit grass has never been of much use. It's just that it's rarely seen, so I accepted it. If you want it, I can give it to you directly. Once these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that happiness came too suddenly. The star spirit grass was a medicinal ingredient that was needed in refining many pills. If it was in the past, it would be a treasure that would be fought over in the auction house. How did it become a piece of trash that no one wanted after 1,000 years? This group of people really didn't know what was good for them. How can that be? I'll buy it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. In addition, I also want the white dew grass fairy tea. Wait a moment, I'll help you get the medicinal ingredients. Ji Wenbin smiled. Until they walked out of the 1,000 medicine lane, Bailey Hongzhuang finally believed that she really bought the star spirit grass for 1 silver coin. Ever since I crossed over, this world has also become a fantasy. Bailey Hongzhuang secretly sighed, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. This was really a big steal. From her chat with Ji Wenbin, she understood that many of the pill recipes from 1,000 years ago had been lost. Now the number of pills was quite small, and the alchemists were extremely respected. It was because of the loss of the pill recipes that the star spirit grass and other more precious medicinal ingredients had become useless. Over time, the price of medicinal ingredients had also changed. Knowing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood was extremely good. Others didn't know about the pill recipes, but she did. As a result, no one would fight with her for the precious medicinal ingredients that she needed. This was simply a pie falling from the sky. Although the pie is good, but you still need to have money. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She originally wanted to refine a soul-gathering pill to speed up her cultivation. Just now she had bought some medicinal ingredients, but she still lacked the bone spirit flower. The price of the bone spirit flower was very high. Adding on the money needed to buy the pill furnace, her little savings were simply not enough. All this time, she had closed her door in the general's mansion and didn't even have the money to reward her. Therefore, all of her savings only added up to 5 gold coins. It could be said that she was poor to a certain extent. The poor can't afford to be hurt. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Her top priority was to earn more money. Otherwise, she would not be able to carry out any of her plans. Speaking of money, Bailey Hongzhuang's mind was filled with that handsome and shameless face. A dignified king was also so stingy. If he had given her 100 gold coins, she wouldn't be so poor right now. Bailey Hongzhuang took some time to make a set of silver needles at the blacksmith shop. She was so poor that she decided to return to the general's residence. However, as she was walking, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. She realized that someone was following her. Slowly quickening her pace, Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the alley. She wanted to see who was following her. After turning a corner, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly disappeared. Where did this person go? She was clearly here just a moment ago. This is someone that His Highness the Crown Prince has taken a fancy to. If we lose her, we'll be in trouble. On the roof, Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently looked down at the two people who were as anxious as ants on a hot fire. Her eyes flashed with ridicule. These two people were not strangers to her. They were the Crown Prince Xianyuan Huan's followers. In the past, they had mocked and ridiculed her quite a bit. Pung, pung. Chapter 14. Bailey Hongzhuang clapped her hands. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two fainted guys. These two only knew some martial arts and had no talent in cultivation. However, they could help Xianyuan Huan come up with a lot of bad ideas, so Xianyuan Huan let them follow him. It just so happens that I don't have money, so someone came to me. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a sly smile. She directly took out the two men's money pouches and looked at the glittering gold coins inside. Even the small coffers of these lackeys were richer than her. Quietly returning to the general's mansion, Bailey Hongzhuang began to rummage through the boxes and cabinets to find something to pawn. Fortunately, she still had some jewelry, which should be worth some money after pawning. After all, she was the legitimate daughter of the general's mansion. Even if the general treated her harshly, she still had some basic jewelry. Looking at the jewelry on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang supported her chin with both hands. Even if I sell all these, it won't be enough for the resources I need for cultivation. Cultivation was a money-burning matter, and without sufficient cultivation resources, wanting to become an expert was not easy. Not to mention, she still had to catch up with Bailey Yuyin and the others as soon as possible, so she could not afford to delay. Is there any way to earn money? Bailey Hongzhuang pondered. She wanted to refine a dan first and then sell it to make money. But with her current financial resources, she simply couldn't refine a dan. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Just open a godly Dr. Square. She had always been very confident in her medical skills. As long as godly Dr. Square was opened, she would definitely make a lot of money. Prince Chen's mansion. The wind blew and the bamboo leaves danced. Behind the curtain-like bamboo forest, a pale golden figure sat in front of a stone table. The roguish, teasing smile on his handsome face was replaced by wisdom and indifference. The only thing that did not change was the supreme, noble aura. Hey Mu, did you find out the girl's identity? His thin lips were slightly opened, and his obsidian-like eyes flashed with a faint smile. He rarely saw such an interesting girl. Young master, that lady's identity is somewhat special. Hey Mu's expression was a little strange. In fact, when he found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, he also found it strange. Di Beichen raised his long eyebrows and smiled faintly. How so? She is the legitimate daughter of the general's estate, Bailey Hongzhuang. Hey Mu answered honestly. Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Beichen repeated these two names, and the curve of his mouth gradually widened. No wonder Xianyuan Heng had a very strange expression when he first saw Bailey Hongzhuang. What happened to the people Xianyuan Huan sent to follow Bailey Hongzhuang? After Bailey Hongzhuang knocked Zhang Ping and Zhang Yu unconscious, she took their money pouches and wrote a few words on their backs. Recalling what Bailey Hongzhuang had done, He Mu couldn't help but smile. What words? Di Beichen's interest was piqued. From a moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's crafty eyes, he knew that this was a strange girl. Luminescent princes, but is so white. His Highness the Crown Prince's, but is even whiter. Di Beichun, who had just taken a sip of water, almost spat it out when he heard this. This woman's way of doing things was really different from the rest. He Mu's eyes were filled with laughter. His usually calm and collected young master rarely had such an expression. Speaking of which, Bailey Hongzhuang really was a clown. Young master, the Crown Prince has been targeting you. Should we make a move? Chapter 15. Don't act rashly. His eyes, as deep as the sea, flashed with wisdom and determination. Although I've been in Fengbo for 3 years, their spies haven't completely left. We can only endure. But we can't just watch young master be humiliated. He Mu frowned. We can quietly get rid of this crown prince without anyone noticing. I'm now a crippled prince that everyone bullies in Fengbo. Even if Xinyuan Huan dies, another one will appear. There's no point, and it'll only raise suspicion. Di Beichun said coldly. His gaze fell on his legs. Is there still no news from Divine Dr. Feng? He Mu's eyes darkened. He shook his head. Not yet. If it weren't for the fact that their young master's legs couldn't walk and his cultivation was suppressed, they wouldn't have to swallow their anger like this. One day they'll return all of this. Di Beichun's expression was normal. Even if his subordinates were unyielding, he still faced them calmly. His maturity far exceeded his age. The next day, an interesting piece of news spread throughout the imperial city. The crown prince's followers, Zhang Ping and Song Ji, must have eaten leopard guts or something. They actually dared to write behind Prince Jing and the crown prince's back. Prince Jing's back is so white. His Highness the Crown Prince's back is even whiter. These 2 sentences became the joke of the day. There were even people who mocked Zhang Ping and Song Ji for knowing that Prince Jing's back was white. After all, many onlookers saw it that day. But how would they know that the Crown Prince's back was even whiter? When they thought about it, the words homosexual appeared in everyone's minds. No wonder the Crown Prince always brought Zhang Ping and Song Ji with him when he went out. Ever since this news spread, the Crown Prince and Prince Jing had been staying in their manners. Their evasive actions confirmed everyone's suspicions, and they couldn't stop laughing. Xinyuan Huan and Xinyuan Jing's reputations had never been good. It was rare to see them make a fool of themselves. Everyone added fuel to the fire to slander them. They only hoped that these 2 fellows would stay in their manners and not come out to cause trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang left the general's estate early. Ever since Bai Qing was beaten to death, the general's estate did not arrange for any other servant girls to serve her. This would save her a lot of trouble. No one would care about her life or death anymore. Even if she left the general's residence, no one would find out. Bailey Hongzhuang took the lead and went to the pawn shop. She sold all the jewelry and successfully got thousands of gold coins. But she told the pawn shop to keep the things for the time being. It wouldn't be long before she redeemed them. After all, most of these were her mother's jewelry and couldn't be sold off like this. There weren't many things that needed to be prepared to open Godly Doctor Square, but the most important thing was to choose a suitable location to open it. Choosing a location, Bailey Hongzhuang murmured. At present, she didn't know much about the market in the imperial city, so she had to find someone who knew the market well to help. The shopkeeper of the all-medicine lane is not bad. Medicine shops and medical centers often dealt with each other. She believed that Ji Wenbin would be very familiar with this. In her previous life, she was the head of an aristocratic family and had met many people. Although Ji Wenbin was a businessman, he had a good heart and was not an unscrupulous businessman. If she asked for his help, he would probably agree. Chapter 16. Miss, are you the only one who's going to open this clinic? Ji Wenbin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. This girl was really too young. Even if she opened Godly Doctor Square, there probably wouldn't be much business. After all, her age was too unconvincing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her charming face radiating with confidence. Yes, there's no need to worry about business. It's just that I'm new to the imperial city and don't know much about it. I hope you can give me an introduction. In the future, I'll buy all the herbs I need from you. How about that? Hearing this, Ji Wenbin nodded. No problem. Coincidentally, I know of a clinic that's for sale. If Miss Hong Zhuang could buy this clinic, it would save us a lot of trouble. Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes lit up. That would naturally be good. If she bought other shops, she would have to spend a lot of effort to renovate them. However, if she bought this clinic, it would save her a lot of trouble. If you're interested, I can take you to have a look. How about that? Ji Wenbin smiled. Thank you very much, shopkeeper. Under Ji Wenbin's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the clinic that was for sale. After knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang was here to buy the clinic, the old doctor's attitude became much more enthusiastic. The clinic in front of her wasn't very big, but the layout was elegant and clear. It was very comfortable to look at. My location is very good. Miss, you happen to want to open a clinic as well. If you buy this place, some of your old customers will continue to patronize this place. The old doctor introduced. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She was very satisfied with this place. An old clinic that had been open for more than 10 years already had a certain status in the Imperial City. Even though the old doctor had left, many people would still come here out of habit. However, with her medical skills, she wasn't worried about the source of customers. Ji Wenbin obviously had a good relationship with the old doctor. With his help, Bailey Hongzhuang successfully bought the entire clinic for 300 gold coins. After that, Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the general's residence after making arrangements for the renovation. If the progress was fast enough, Godly Physician Square would be open for business in less than 7 days. Cultivation was the most important thing for Bailey Hongzhuang now. As soon as she returned to the residence, she put all her energy into cultivation. The royal family would hold a hunt every other year. Now that there were only 3 months left, she wanted to shine brightly in the 3-month hunt. However, not long after Bailey Hongzhuang started cultivating, Xiaohe rushed in from outside. Master, Bailey Yuyan and Xianyuan Huan are here. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. These two guys suddenly coming to her place was definitely not a good thing. After quickly changing her appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her previous sallow and emaciated appearance. Bang! He kicked the door open again, and the door, which was already on the verge of collapse, was smashed into pieces by the force of this kick. Who is it? Bailey Hongzhuang pretended not to know, her face filled with nervousness. Xianyuan Huan looked at the still, emaciated, and ugly Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him, and the suspicion in his heart completely disappeared. This fellow was clearly blind. How could she be the Hongzhuang he met on the street that day? Your Highness, what happened to you? Chapter 17. It's nothing, Xianyuan Huan casually replied. Reaching out, he picked up a teacup and threw it at Bailey Hongzhuang. He must be sure of this fact. Zhang Ping and Zhang Xian were knocked out when they were following Hongzhuang. If Hongzhuang really wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang, why would she write such words that made him be ridiculed? Because of this matter, he has now become the laughingstock of the entire Imperial City. Even Imperial Father is quite dissatisfied with him. Looking at Xianyuan Huan's action, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a cold light. This bastard actually thought of using this method to test me. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even flinch as the teacup heavily hit her forehead. Ah! Bailey Hongzhuang fell backwards. She knew that if she didn't do this today, Xianyuan Huan would definitely not let her off easily. Before her strength is strong enough to protect herself, she can only continue to play the role of a blind trash. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang get hit by the teacup, Xianyuan Huan's eyes revealed a satisfied expression. You can pretend to be anything, but you can't pretend to be an instinctive reaction. Bailey Hongzhuang is still that blind trash. He really thought too much. Your Highness. Bailey Yuyan breathed a sigh of relief. Since Xianyuan Huan treated Bailey Hongzhuang like this, he probably doesn't have any feelings for her. It's fine, let's go. Xianyuan Huan smiled proudly. He came here to confirm that Bailey Hongzhuang is still blind. Since he has already confirmed it, he doesn't want to look at this trash again. Hearing this, although Bailey Yuyan was puzzled, she still obediently followed Xianyuan Huan and prepared to leave. Bailey Hongzhuang, who fell to the ground, looked at Xianyuan Huan. This scum. Her deep phoenix eyes were filled with a cold light. She flicked her 10 fingers, and the black and white fur balls directly flew out. Fuck, last time you used us as cushions. This time you used us as hidden weapons. The black and white fur balls stomped their feet in dissatisfaction, but they still obediently jumped on a Bailey Yuyin and Xinyuan Huan. After a while, the two left Elegant's Daylily Pavilion, and the black and white fur balls rolled back into the room. Success. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows as she looked at the two little fellows in front of her, but the corners of her lips hooked into a shallow arc. Of course. With us taking action, what can't we do? Xiao He proudly said, obviously wanting to imitate Bailey Hongzhuang and raise its eyebrows. But unfortunately, it didn't have eyebrows, so it looks like its eyes twitched. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an enchanting smile. Now isn't the time for revenge. I'll collect some interest first. Huan. Hey. Why is my... Is standing. Hongzha. Nothing. Bailey Yuyin forced a smile, but her body couldn't help but sway. The itch on her body became more and more intense, as if there were countless little insects crawling on her body. What's wrong with you? Xinyuan Huan frowned. He was already in a bad mood after being scolded by his imperial father. Now that he saw Bailey Yuyin constantly sway her, but, as if mocking him, his heart became even angrier. Could it be that you also want to mock me? Bailey Yuyin repeatedly waved her hand. Your Highness, I didn't mean that. Then what do you mean? Bailey Yin's face turned red. I just feel itchy all over. As she spoke, Bailey Yin couldn't bear the itch and began to scratch. Chapter 18. In this situation, Bailey Yin couldn't care less about Xinyuan Huan's presence and wanted to roll on the ground. So itchy. Seeing Bailey Yin like this, Xinyuan Huan frowned. Yin, what's wrong with you? Your Highness Crown Prince, my body is so itchy. Bailey Yuyin scratched so hard that tears fell. Quickly help me. Xinyuan Huan was bewildered. Wait here. I'll help you find a doctor. The originally quiet general's mansion became busy. At first, no one thought that Bailey Yuyin's situation was serious. But when they saw Bailey Yuyin scratching her body, they realized that this wasn't a small matter. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the commotion outside. Her delicate and beautiful face outlined an enchanting smile. This itching powder was just a small lesson. If Bailey Yuyin wasn't so vicious, not only did she poison the original Bailey Hongzhuang blind, but also persuaded her to commit suicide, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have died. This debt of a life, sooner or later, would have to be repaid. Master, your itching powder is so effective. Xiao Hei's eyes were full of surprise. Originally, when he knew that his master only told him to sprinkle the itching powder on Bailey Yuyin's body, he was dissatisfied. This woman was so hateful, such a small trick couldn't even be considered his interest. But now, when he heard that Bailey Hongzhuang scratched her face and almost no part of her body was intact, he realized that he had underestimated the power of the itching powder. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The itching powder I made naturally can't be compared to ordinary itching powder. If this goes on, will Bailey Yuyin die? Xiao Hei asked curiously. That kind of woman, even if she died, she would be getting rid of evil for the people. That won't happen. The itching powder has a time limit. This is only intermediate itching powder. The effect lasts for 2 hours. After 2 hours, it will automatically lose its effect. She'll be fine if she doesn't scratch herself. The harder she scratches, the stronger the itch will be. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Obviously, Bailey Yuyin isn't that smart. Xiao Bai's mouth twitched. Master is really awesome. This design was too strange. How many people could resist the urge to scratch their itch? Then why didn't Xinyuan Huan have this problem? Xiao Hei was puzzled and looked at Xiao Bai with disdain. Don't tell me you didn't succeed. Xiao Bai quickly waved her hand. How can I not handle such a small matter? The powder on Xinyuan Huan's body is an itching powder. His pitch-black pupils that were as deep as an ancient well were filled with a touch of coldness. Just to confirm the conjecture in his heart, Xinyuan Huan had come here to wreak havoc. From the beginning to the end, Xinyuan Huan simply did not see her as a human. For this kind of scum, The itching powder was a child's play. The reason why she didn't directly confront Xin Yuan Huan now was because she wanted to give him an even louder slap in the face in the future. Then what is it? Xiaobai asked curiously. Ever since Master came back from the all-medicine lane, she had installed a lot of things in the room. It didn't understand what they were, so it didn't ask. Now that it knew the effects, it was interested in these bottles and jars. Xin Yuan Huan smashed my head, so I'll let him have a taste of pain. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. You'll know in a few days. Looking at the shattered door on the ground, Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face was covered with a layer of haze. There's no way to fix this door, so she might as well just let it be. Chapter 19. 7 days later. The sun shone brightly, and the sky was clear and beautiful. The streets of the imperial city were bustling with activity, as usual. The sound of hawking could be heard from one end of the street to the other. The only difference was that today, Godly Doctor Square opened for business. Fiery red firecrackers rang out, attracting everyone's attention. Bailey Hongzhuang even arranged for a dragon and lion dance performance, attracting all the people in the imperial city to Godly Doctor Square. In a short period of time, the entrance of Godly Doctor Square was packed with people. Everyone was curiously sizing up this newly opened clinic. Godly Doctor Square? A man looked at the words on the signboard in surprise. This name was a little arrogant. This was originally Dr. Shun's clinic. After Dr. Shun retired and returned to his hometown, he transferred his clinic. The person who took over opened Godly Doctor Square. I don't know who opened it. Just by hearing the name, I can tell that it's not simple. Voices of discussion spread around Godly Doctor Square. This name was simply too topical. If it was really a godly doctor, they would naturally be happy. But if it wasn't, then it would be a joke. Inside the clinic, Ji Wenbin looked helplessly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Hongzhuang, the name of your clinic is Tu. Previously, he had never asked Bailey Hongzhuang for the name of her clinic. Today, when he saw the name of the clinic, he couldn't help but blush with shame. Others might not know, but he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was the only doctor in this clinic. Although he believed that Bailey Hongzhuang had a certain level of medical skills, she was still far from being a godly doctor. It was true that newborn calves were not afraid of tigers. She had just opened her clinic, and she was already so arrogant. If she ruined her reputation in the future, she would become the biggest joke in the imperial city. To what? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Too arrogant? Ji Wenbin sighed. Miss Hongzhuang, you know very well that showing off too much isn't a good thing. Previously, when he interacted with Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had a lot of insight at such a young age, and he admired her very much. Now, it seemed that she was too young to understand the principles of life. Seeing Ji Wenbin sigh, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. So far, Ji Wenbin was the only person who truly wished her well. Big brother Ji, don't worry. I know what to do. She was not an inexperienced girl. The reason why she chose the name Godly Doctor Square was to achieve this effect. Without a certain level of strength, such a name would be a joke. But with enough strength, such a name would be worthy of its name. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's firm expression, Ji Wenbin didn't say anything more. The medical center belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was free to do whatever she wanted. At the end of the performance, the onlookers started to size up Godly Doctor Square. The huge clinic was completely white, and with the addition of the green bonsai, it looked very eye-catching. Today is the opening day of Godly Doctor Square. The first 3 guests will be treated for free, and the rest will be treated at half price. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent as she methodically explained the activities of Godly Doctor Square. You're the doctor of Godly Doctor Square? Everyone looked at the young lady who was only 15 or 16 years old in front of them, and their faces were filled with disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I come from a medical family. I've studied medicine since I was young, and I'm quite accomplished in it. Everyone, please don't worry. However, even though Bailey Hongzhuang spoke with the demeanor of a great doctor, the crowd still found it hard to believe. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang's age was just too unconvincing. Chapter 20. For a moment, Although everyone was still standing in front of Godly Doctor Square, no one walked in. They were all waiting for the first person to appear, but that person did not appear for a long time. This scene was not out of Bailey Hongzhuang's expectations. In fact, when she was preparing to open Godly Doctor Square, she had already expected this result. After Godly Doctor Square successfully opened, Ji Wenbin returned to the All Medicine Square. As the shopkeeper, he had to take care of business. The first 3 patients are treated for free. Why is no one going in? Among the crowd, a man who had just arrived in front of Godly Doctor Square asked curiously when he saw that no one was going in. This doctor is a teenage girl. Without any elders, who would dare to let her treat them? Wouldn't it be bad luck if something went wrong? Sigh. I'm afraid it's some rich girl's farce. Let's go. Everyone shook their heads. The originally crowded Godly Doctor Square gradually quieted down. In the end, no one was willing to put on a farce with a young girl. Looking at this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression remained indifferent. She had set her sights on high-ranking officials and nobles. Only these people would be able to pay enough. She did not have much time to practice medicine. Opening this clinic was only to pave the way for her own cultivation. She did not care whether ordinary people came or not. However, a figure in the crowd took a deep look at Bailey Hongzhuang. After confirming Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, he quickly left. Prince Chen's mansion. You said that Bailey Hongzhuang opened Godly Doctor Square? Di Beichen's handsome face was filled with interest. He fiddled with the dial in his hand and looked at He Mu in front of him. He Mu nodded seriously. That's right. However, Miss Bailey's age is not convincing, so no patients have come. Di Beichen's expression was relaxed. He was not surprised by this scene. How did Bailey Hongzhuang react? Very calm. He Mu thought for a moment, then sized up Di Beichen. Just like your expression right now, young master. Di Beichen's eyes, which were as deep as the sea, were suffused with bluish-purple light. He paused for a moment and said, This Bailey Hongzhuang is completely different from before. Have you found out what happened to her over the years? According to the information I've gathered, this Bailey Hongzhuang's transformation began after her suicide attempt. It's as if she's become a completely different person, He Mu said doubtfully. If it's not a different person, then she's been hiding. Di Beichen narrowed his eyes. Could it be that all of this was just to cancel the engagement with Xianyuan Huan? If it were someone else, this idea would only exist in theory. In reality, the possibility was too low. Thus, the only possibility left was to hide. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly changed after the engagement was broken off. Apart from this reason, there was no other reason. He Mu was stunned. It had always been Xianyuan Huan who was dissatisfied with the engagement. Could it be that Miss Bailey also hated this engagement? He Mu, come with me to Godly Doctor Square in a moment. Di Beichen smiled faintly. I should also go see how my wife is doing. He Mu, who was already stunned, widened his eyes when he heard Di Beichen's words. He wished he could slap himself to confirm a truth. Did the young master really say something like this? Master, no patients have come. Xiao He sat on the table, her large round eyes filled with distress. Chapter 21. Why are you in such a hurry? Master must have a way. Xiao Bai replied. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and stroked Xiao Bai's head. Xiao Bai is so smart. Master, what can you do? Xiao He curiously approached Bailey Hongzhuang, looking expectant. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. We'll have to rely on Xianyuan Huan's help. Xiao He was stunned, and her watery eyes sparkled with astonishment. That idiot crown prince? He'll help us? That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled meaningfully. The news should be coming out of the palace soon. The two furballs looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's smile in confusion. They really didn't understand what their master meant. Wife, why did you leave without saying a word? You made me look for you for a long time. The low and charming voice was full of complaints and laughter, interrupting Bailey Hongzhuang's contemplation. Hearing this shameless and familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. She turned around and saw Di Beichen as expected. Who's your wife? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and narrowed her bright and clear eyes, flashing with a dangerous light. Last time, this guy acted shamelessly and reneged on his debt. This time, he dared to take advantage of her verbally. Di Bei-chen's face was innocent as he blinked his bright eyes. Wifey, I'm already yours. Don't tell me you don't want to take responsibility. When did I promise you? Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. She never thought that the dignified Prince Chun would turn out to be such a shameless guy. It was simply a waste of his incomparably handsome face. That day, the sun was shining brightly. Get to the point. You saved me in front of so many people. Naturally, I have to repay you with my body. Di Bei-chun looked serious. I'm not an ungrateful person. When Mu saw that his usually wise and steady young master had turned into a complete scoundrel, his eyes were filled with shock. Looks like young Lord treats this Miss Bailey very differently. Bailey Hongzhuang facepalmed. If you really want to thank me, then please don't appear in front of me. I'll thank you then. She really had to hand it to this guy. With such an impeccable face, even if he was pretending to be a scoundrel, he was still full of irresistible charm. However, she knew that Di Bei-chen was not as simple as he seemed on the surface. It was better not to provoke him. However, Di Bei-chen acted as if he didn't hear Bailey Hongzhuang's words at all. Instead, he said, Wife, I didn't expect you to have medical skills. As Di Bei-chen looked around the medical center, Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. She really didn't know why this guy wanted to rely on her. But this business doesn't look very good. Do you need my help? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked deeply at Di Bei-chen. She always felt that with this guy's scoundrel nature, he would most likely not be so kind. What can you help me with? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. You can directly give me the 100 gold coins you owe me last time. That would be a great help to me. Talking about money hurts our relationship. Based on our relationship, this little bit of money can be ignored. The corners of Di Bei-chen's mouth curled into a charming smile. It was as if a cool breeze had brushed past, making people feel comfortable. Of course, that was only what other people thought. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that this guy's scoundrel nature had already been integrated into his bones. Chapter 22. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. She was curious about Di Bei-chen's suggestion and couldn't help but ask, How are you going to help me recruit patients? Although she had already thought of a way to boost Godly Dr. Square's reputation, she didn't mind understanding Di Bei-chen's thoughts. The smile in Di Bei-chen's eyes widened. Isn't that simple? Isn't the patient right in front of you? Bailey Hongzhuang swept her eyes over Godly Dr. Square before finally settling her gaze on Di Bei-chen. You? Di Bei-chen nodded seriously, his smile graceful. Of course. Am I not a ready-made patient? If you can cure my leg, I can give you any reward you want. Mu's expression tensed. The young master couldn't really be planning on having Miss Bailey treat his leg, right? The young master wasn't an ordinary person. How could Miss Bailey treat an illness that even Godly Dr. Feng couldn't treat? Looking at Di Bei-chen's indifferent expression, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood that the former didn't believe in her medical skills. In other words, he didn't believe that she had superb medical skills. Since there aren't any other guests, I'll help you take a look at your leg. Her charming face was shrouded in a self-confident glow. Her originally elegant and refined face instantly became bright and moving, as fresh and beautiful as a camellia. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't waste any time. She immediately took Di Bei-chen's hand and prepared to take his pulse. However, she had only just touched Di Bei-chen's hand when she discovered that his hand was ice cold. It was completely different from the warmth she had imagined. Di Bei-chen's eyes flashed with a faint light as his gaze twisted onto Bailey Hongzhuang's face. She then took Di Bei-chen's hand. Bailey Hongzhuang's teasing expression had already disappeared. She had a premonition that Di Bei-chen's leg wasn't an ordinary cripple, but rather a result of other reasons. Your Highness, Mu's expression was tense. The young master's identity was not simple, and his body was naturally not something that ordinary people could touch. If Bailey Hongzhuang was a spy sent by the other party, then wouldn't the young lord be in danger? Di Bei-chen slightly waved his hand, his handsome face still rippling with a charming smile. I also want to see my wife's medical skills. Bailey Hongzhuang keenly noticed the flash of killing intent in He Mu's eyes. She had experienced many battles and was extremely sensitive to killing intent. Even though He Mu had quickly covered it up, she was still able to discover it. Di Baichen was indeed not a simple person. As for the life of this illegitimate child, it might not be real. This man's secrets were probably no less than his own. A white and tender hand covered Di Baichen's wrist. From the broad and rough palm, Bailey Hong Zhuang could tell that this was a hand that held a sword all year round. Otherwise, it would not have so many calluses. From this, she could at least conclude that Di Baichen's strength wasn't weak. Anyone who cultivated diligently wouldn't be weak, not to mention that Di Baichen wasn't an ordinary person. While Bailey Hongzhuang was sizing up Di Baichen was also sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang. As far as he knew, the legitimate daughter of the general's estate had never been doted on. When she was 5 years old, it was discovered that she was unable to cultivate. After that, she was spurned by everyone. How could a girl who lived in the boudoir possibly know medicine? Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had always been silently cultivating and learning and was forced to endure like him? Chapter 23. When Bailey Hongzhuang diagnosed Di Baichen's pulse, her eyes, which had always been calm, finally showed a touch of astonishment. Cursed physique. If she was not mistaken, Di Baichen had the cursed physique. She never thought that she would encounter such a rare physique in this place. In her past life, she had coincidentally met a cultivator with a cursed physique. However, that person was the head of an influential family and was not someone that Di Baichen could compare to. The cursed physique was a special physique. In this world, there are all sorts of strange things. Some cultivators had unique physiques. Some physiques could greatly increase the speed of a cultivator's cultivation. Therefore, cultivators with these physiques were often quite successful and could make a name for themselves at a young age. Other than that, there were also some physiques that had the opposite effect. They were known as the trash physique. Not only were they not beneficial to cultivation, they would also slow down the cultivator's cultivation or even make it impossible for them to cultivate. Previously, she had been judged to have the trash physique and was unable to cultivate. However, she knew very well that her dantian was merely destroyed. As for why it was destroyed, she still could not find a reason. The cursed physique was a rather unique physique because it combined both advantages and disadvantages into one body. Cultivators with the cursed physique would often shine brightly in the early stages of their cultivation and leave their peers far behind. However, once their cultivation reached a certain level, the effects of the cursed physique would manifest. The cultivator would gradually become paralyzed from the soles of their feet and lose their senses. If they were unable to change this, then they would become a complete cripple. On the other hand, if they survived this ordeal, then they would be like a phoenix reborn from the ashes. From the cursed physique to the physique of destiny, they would become God's favorite. This type of physique was very rare. In her past life, she had coincidentally met a strong cultivator with the cursed physique. That was how she learned a little about it. She never thought that she would meet another one in front of her. From Di Baichen's current state, she was certain that Di Baichen had been using other methods to prevent his body from being paralyzed, but the effect was not great. They were evenly matched. Di Baichen, who had been sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang, didn't miss the look of astonishment on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. This kind of astonishment was clearly the result of an epiphany. An inconceivable thought appeared in Di Baichen's mind. Even Dr. Feng couldn't diagnose his illness, so how could Bailey Hongzhuang know? Miss Bailey, is there any way to treat His Highness' legs? He Mu asked tentatively, a trace of nervousness on his face. Bailey Hongzhuang did not answer immediately. Instead, she pinched Di Baichen's leg and asked, "Where did you lose feeling in your leg?" Hearing these words, He Mu couldn't help but be stunned. He had always thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was just a dabbler. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to tell that his young master's legs were paralyzed and not because his meridians were broken or something else. This wasn't simple at all. Di Baichen was also a little surprised. He had only wanted to tease Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang's current performance made him take it seriously. Below the knee, there is no feeling. Bei Chen's voice was low, and the light of perseverance flashed in his dark eyes. Chapter 24. This was one of the special characteristics of the cursed body. Any part of the body that was paralyzed would be frozen solid. This was also the reason why Bei Chen's hands were so cold. I understand, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Then what do you mean? He Mu couldn't help but ask. Do you know what's wrong with His Highness' legs? I know, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally replied. Then what's going on? He Mu's eyes were filled with anxiety. Since this Miss Bailey knew what was going on, why didn't she tell him the reason? Divine Dr. Feng had never been able to find the cause of the young master's paralysis, so he could only use other methods to prevent the young master's body from continuing to be paralyzed. However, these methods only treated the symptoms and not the root cause. It wasn't easy for someone to say that they knew the cause of a young master's illness, but they kept silent. It was easy to imagine the anxiety in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders, and her charming face flashed with an innocent expression. I know, but why should I tell you? He Mu was stunned. He was completely dumbfounded by Bailey Hongzhuang's answer. On the other hand, Bei Chen revealed a smile after hearing this. Aren't you treating His Highness' illness? Of course you have to tell us the cause of the illness. He Mu said, I'm running a clinic, not a charity. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed at the 3 words Godly Doctor Square and said, Your Highness is so poor that he can't even take out 100 gold coins, so why should I tell you? Since it's like this, why are you treating His Highness' illness? Because I want to. Looking at the charming face in front of him, this was the first time He Mu felt so defeated. He had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang being defeated in front of the young master was very interesting, but he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to turn the tables in such a short time. You really know the cause of my paralysis? Bei Chen restrained his joking expression and asked in a deep voice. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. Of course. Do you think the name of Godly Doctor Square is just for show? Bei Chen took a deep look at Bailey Hongzhuang, his long and narrow eyes once again filled with a sly smile. Suddenly, Bei Chen grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand tightly. Wife, I'm already yours. What else are you dissatisfied with? Bei Chen's chiseled and handsome face shone with an innocent and expectant light. I believe that seeing your husband suffer like this, you must feel terrible in your heart. After all, I'm the one who's hurt, and you're the one who's hurting. Don't deny it. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed her temples as she looked at this self-directed and bashful fellow in front of her. She felt that her tolerance was reaching its limit. Could he be any more shameless? We've only met for the second time, all right? Bailey Hongzhuang suppressed her anger and said in a deep voice, Hurry and leave Godly Doctor Square. Now, immediately. She really didn't want to see this fellow again. He was constantly testing her patience. After saying that, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and prepared to enter Godly Doctor Square. This fellow was just here to cause trouble, so she couldn't be bothered to deal with him. However, the moment Bailey Hongzhuang shook off her hand, she felt Bei Chen's right hand suddenly tighten, and her entire body fell back uncontrollably. Chapter 25. He Mu's eyes widened at the dramatic scene in front of him. He even forgot to close his mouth. He saw Bailey Hongzhuang sitting on Bei Chen's lap, while Bei Chen had one arm around Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist and the other hand still holding on to Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Bailey Hongzhuang was also stunned at this moment. She stared blankly at the handsome face in front of her and forgot to breathe. His elegant and charming smile gradually widened. Bei Chen looked at the changing expressions of the person in his arms and her gradually blushing cheeks. For some reason, his heart was tainted with a trace of strangeness. My wife is the most adorable when she's so obedient. Bei Chen's voice was gentle and contained a trace of pampering. Bailey Hongzhuang finally recovered from her daze. Her beautiful face blushed, and she immediately prepared to leave. But Bei Chen seemed to have already predicted her movements. His hands were like steel, firmly holding her against his body. My wife, are you shy? Bei Chen moved closer to Bailey Hongzhuang's face, and his bewitching voice sounded in her ear. Bailey Hongzhuang only smelled a refreshing fragrance and looked at that beautiful face. She couldn't help but admit that in this world, there were too many women who were willing to fall for him. This man was too dangerous. If you don't let go of me, you'll have to bear the consequences. Bailey Hongzhuang's cold voice was mixed with a warning. Her eyes slightly narrowed as they flashed with a dangerous light. Even if her current cultivation level wasn't Di Beichen's match, she still had methods that could catch people off guard. Di Beichen's eyes that were as deep as the ocean met Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes that were as calm as an ancient well. For a moment, there was a faint collision of sparks, intense and resplendent. Slowly letting go of her hand, Di Beichen's smile was still on his face. I was just joking. My wife, why are you so serious? Bailey Hongzhuang once again stood up straight, but her beautiful face was covered with frost. As the dignified Prince Chun, if you want to marry a wife, you can casually wave a hand, and there will be a lot of girls willing to marry you. Why do you have to make such a joke with me? Because I'm not interested in anyone else. I only like you. Di Beichun very naturally replied. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned, but her eyes darkened. This guy really didn't even think of a script when he was lying. But I don't like you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's face do you already have a sweetheart? No. Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously replied. Since you haven't, then I'm relieved. Di Beichun smiled brightly. You might as well think about it. I'm a very good husband. Scram. Bailey Hongzhuang felt that if she continued to stay with Di Beichun for even a second longer, she would not be able to resist the urge to go berserk. She immediately walked into Godly Doctor Square. He Mu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's departing figure, then looked at Di Beichun's handsome face with a smile. Young master, let's go. Di Beichun smiled faintly. He had already achieved his goal of coming here today. Yes. He Mu pushed Di Beichun towards Prince Chen's residence, but along the way, he could not stop looking at Di Beichun. Say what you want to say. It's not your style to hesitate. Seeing that Di Beichun had noticed his actions, He Mu could not help but touch his head and ask tentatively, Young master, do you really like Miss Bailey? Chapter 26. Until Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, the young master's attitude changed. But thinking that they had only met twice, it was a bit exaggerated. Don't you think this woman is very interesting? Di Beichun's eyes rippled with a faint smile. He Mu was puzzled. What did the young master mean by this answer? Did he like her or not? Obviously, Di Beichun did not intend to explain to He Mu. After that, he returned to Prince Chen's mansion in silence. After confirming that Di Beichun had left, Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the front hall of Godly Doctor Square. The black and white fur balls bounced in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. They did not say anything and just stared at Bailey Hongzhuang with their big round eyes. Why are you looking at me? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask. Xiao He smiled ambiguously. Master, you blushed just now. Actually, other than his leg being disabled, this Prince Chun is quite good in other aspects. Xiao Bai teased. With Master's medical skills, it shouldn't be a problem to cure him. Looking at the two fellows in front of her who were teasing her, Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and flicked them to the side. Thinking back to the scene just now, she felt even more depressed. Damn Di Beichun. Although she was quite experienced in dealing with people, she was a blank slate when it came to relationships. Now that this annoying guy Di Beichun had deliberately played her, how hateful. I heard that the crown prince is sick and the imperial physicians in the palace are helpless. I don't know what strange illness he has, but the crown prince's body is full of huge blisters and the pain is unbearable. Now, he is recruiting all the famous doctors in the world. I heard that whoever can cure the crown prince's illness will be rewarded with 100,000 gold coins. Hearing this reward, everyone gasped. If any doctor could receive this reward, they would not need to treat and save people in the future. How can it be that simple? If even the imperial physicians can't cure it, I'm afraid that no one can. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Her judgment was right. The doctors were helpless. The black and white fur balls immediately rolled back, no longer daring to tease Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, they wouldn't know where they would be bounced the next time. Master, was Xian Yuanhuan's illness caused by the poison powder I scattered last time? Xiaobai asked. Previously, and Xiao He had sprinkled the powder on Bailey Yuyin and Xin Yuan Huan. Bailey Yuyin had already been punished, but Xin Yuan Huan was still safe and sound. It knew that things were not that simple. "You're smart." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile, but a fierce look appeared in her eyes. "Xin Yuan Huan, this scum, deserves to taste pain." "Master, then why did you only let Xin Yuan Huan fall sick now?" Xiao He asked. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Because I want Xin Yuan Huan to bring fame to Godly Doctor Square." She had calculated that Godly Doctor Square would need 7 days to open, so she gave Xin Yuan Huan the miasma powder. The miasma powder was a type of poison. The poisoned person would have blisters all over their body and would be in great pain. Once the blisters burst, the pain would be even worse. It was definitely a very torturous poison. The symptoms of the poison would break out after 7 days. She had not noticed it before, but she had specially prepared it for Xin Yuan Huan. Chapter 27. The Emperor dotes on Xin Yuan Huan very much. Once the imperial physicians are helpless, the Emperor will definitely inform the world and find capable physicians to enter the palace. At that time, Bailey Hongzhuang's treatment will be free publicity. When that time comes, everyone will know about her Godly Doctor Square, and business will naturally flow. "Then are we going to the palace now?" Xiao He's face is full of doubt, and then she angrily says, "In my opinion, it would be better to just let Xin Yuan Huan die." Xin Yuan Huan dared to treat his master like that. He really deserves to die. Compared to what he did to the dead Bailey Hongzhuang, dying like this is too easy. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes are sharp, and her enchanting smile has a trace of ruthlessness. She will return the pain that Xin Yuan Huan has inflicted on her 1,000 times over. Master is planning to let Xin Yuan Huan suffer for 2 more days before entering the palace. Xiao Bai immediately guessed Bailey Hongzhuang's plan. This kind of pain must first be enjoyed by Xin Yuan Huan before treating him. Just thinking of Xin Yuan Huan's face when he thanks Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao Bai feels a burst of laughter. Yes, at least wait until everyone understands the complexity of this illness before treating him. Otherwise, how can I show off my outstanding medical skills? The next 2 days, just as Bailey Hongzhuang predicted, doctors from all over the country entered the palace, but came out shaking their heads. No one has ever seen this kind of strange illness. Whether it is the miasma powder or the itching powder, they are Bailey Hongzhuang's secret recipes. Things from 1,000 years ago have long disappeared in the river of history, so it is normal that no one in the Shengxian continent knows about them. What's more, even 1,000 years ago, there were very few people who knew about these 2 things. Because Bailey Hongzhuang is very interested in strange powders and pills, she has researched a lot in her spare time, and many of them are her own creations. At that time, even the elders who taught her medicine were in a mess because of her. Bailey Yuyin had scratched her face because of the itchy powder incident. She had been staying in her room for the past few days. Even when Xin Yuan Huan fell ill, she didn't go to the palace to see him. This matter caused many people to be puzzled. Many people knew that Xin Yuan Huan and Bailey Yuyin were together. Now that they saw this situation, everyone couldn't help but feel puzzled. Could it be that there was a problem with the relationship between the 2 of them? Although Bailey Hongzhuang did not know how serious Bailey Yuyin's injury was, she could roughly guess that the area of the wound was not small. She was the one who had concocted the itching powder, so she naturally understood its effects the best. Bailey Yuyin had poisoned her blind, and she had disfigured Bailey Yuyin. This could be considered an eye for an eye. Another day has passed. How many doctors have come out of the palace shaking their heads? In my opinion, there's no hope for the crown prince. Shu, lower your voice. If these words reach the ears of those who don't dare to spread it, be careful that you won't be able to keep your life. Tsh, the crown prince has always been arrogant and despotic. Who knows what he did this time and received retribution? I heard that the crown prince has fallen into a coma. If no one can cure him today, I'm afraid he won't make it through tonight. In the imperial city, almost everyone was talking about Xin Yuan Huan's condition. As the crown prince of a country, no matter if Xin Yuan Huan was loved or not, everyone was extremely concerned about him. It seems that I should also make a move. Chapter 28. In these 3 days, Xianyuan Huan must have been tortured by the pain. If she didn't make a move, Xianyuan Huan's soul would have already returned to the ninth heaven. Just as she arrived at the imperial palace's gate, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure was directly stopped by the guards. "Who are you?" "I am a doctor. I am entering the palace to treat His Highness the Crown Prince," Bailey Hongzhuang calmly replied. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's reply, the guard suspiciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Where did this brat come from? This is not a place for you to mess around. Quickly leave. I am a doctor. If you don't let me in and affect His Highness the Crown Prince's treatment, be careful that you won't be able to keep your heads." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold, her eyes flashing with a sharp luster. A proud aura instantly erupted. The guards who were originally disdainful were stunned after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's aura. As guards of the imperial palace, they had seen many high-ranking officials and dignitaries, but to be able to have such an aura was extremely rare. Even His Highness the Crown Prince did not have this kind of aura. Under this kind of aura, they only felt a sense of submission from the bottom of their hearts, not daring to have the slightest intention of disobedience. Discovering this point, the guards looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. Who was this young girl? Her aura was actually so terrifying. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent, but there was a trace of arrogance between her eyebrows. Most of these guards looked down on people with dog eyes. Only by showing enough ability would they be respectful to you. As the head of an aristocratic family in her previous life, she had gradually cultivated her aura. Although her cultivation level was low now, her aura would not change. Sure enough, after feeling this aura, the guards no longer dared to look down on Bailey Hongzhuang. With this kind of aura, how could she be an ordinary person? The imperial palace was magnificent, dazzling in gold and jade. A grand and solemn aura hit people in the face, making them deeply aware of their own insignificance. Under the guidance of the guards, Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the Eastern Palace. The Eastern Palace, which was originally very quiet, was now very lively. The imperial physicians and the people's doctors all gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, constantly discussing Xianyuan Huan's condition. Seeing that a new doctor had arrived, everyone only glanced at him casually. Over the past 3 days, new doctors would arrive almost every once in a while. They had long since gotten used to it. However, when everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang, their faces changed a bit. Not because of anything else, but because this doctor's age was too young. A young lady in her teens probably couldn't even differentiate between medicinal herbs, yet she still wanted to treat the crown prince. Wasn't this a joke? Who brought this girl here? Isn't this nonsense? Ning Hongzhong, one of the imperial physicians, angrily said. Even though they had yet to find a cure, they couldn't just turn to any doctor in their desperation and bring such a child in. The guard seemed to have already expected the imperial physician to fly into a rage. After bringing Bailey Hongzhuang here, he left early. Although the other doctors did not speak, their attitude was no different from Ning Hongzhong's. This little girl coming here would not be able to help at all. Instead, she would be a joke. "Senior, I have yet to treat the crown prince. How can you determine that I can't treat the crown prince?" Chapter 29. Upon seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and composed appearance, Ning Hong's expression changed slightly. Regardless of how good this little girl's medical skills were, her mental fortitude alone was incomparable to ordinary people. "You're still young. Even if you've studied medicine since a long time ago, it's impossible for you to master it thoroughly. You should go back," Ning Hong said. He could already see that the crown prince would not be able to survive the night. When the time came, the emperor would definitely be furious, and they would all be implicated. This little girl did not need to come here to suffer such an undeserved disaster. Even a little girl who's still wet behind the ears like you can treat the crown prince? I think the Imperial Academy of Medicine is really a bunch of good-for-nothings. An arrogant voice came from behind Bailey Hongzhuang, interrupting Ning Hong's conversation with her. Everyone turned around and saw a man in his 40s appear in their line of sight. The man was about 40 years old and wore a dark green brocade robe. Even a high-quality robe could not hide his pot-bellied body. At this moment, he was looking at Ning Hong and the others mockingly. Upon seeing this man, Ninghong's face instantly darkened. Pang Tangping. Pang Tangping smiled complacently. When you drove me out of the Imperial Academy of Medicine, did you not expect that you would need my help one day? A person with bad medical ethics like you should not stay in the Imperial Academy of Medicine, Ninghong said in a low voice. Hearing this, Pang Tangping's eyes flickered with disdain. The most important thing for a doctor is to be a doctor. So what if my medical ethics are bad? At least it's better than you recruiting a little girl who's still wet behind the ears. I've only left the Imperial Academy of Medicine for a few years. It seems that the Imperial Academy of Medicine has been reduced to pinning its hopes on children. Pang Tangping's tone was very complacent, and he glanced at everyone in the Imperial Academy of Medicine with disdain. He still remembered the situation when he left the Imperial Academy of Medicine. Today, he finally got his revenge. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Why did this guy who had suddenly appeared keep implicating her? She had been implicated even when she was lying down. At the same time, many pharmacists outside the Easter Palace also looked at Pang Tangping with dissatisfaction. This person was too arrogant. He had only just arrived at the Eastern Palace, and he had not even seen the Crown Prince's illness, yet he had already begun to despise them all. Pang Tangping also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's dissatisfied gaze and immediately mocked. Little girl, what are you looking at? Hearing Pang Tangping's disdainful and provocative words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression instantly turned cold. Damn fatty, I'm looking at you, so what? As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Who would have thought that this elegant and refined girl would say such words the moment she opened her mouth? However, a damn fatty was very similar to Pang Tangping's image. Pang Tangping couldn't help but be startled. He didn't put this little girl in his eyes at all. He didn't expect that this little girl would dare to talk back to him. I think you need to be taught a lesson. Didn't your mother teach you etiquette? Originally, Pang Tangping wanted to be arrogant in front of everyone. Now that he had been humiliated by a girl, Pang Tangping's words became increasingly impolite. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black eyes were filled with a cold light, and her voice suddenly became low. Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to butt in on my matters? If Bailey Hongzhuang had previously only hated Pang Tangping's face, she had now decided to ruthlessly trample on this fellow. Chapter 30. Her originally petite figure seemed to have suddenly become tall at this moment. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. At this moment, they couldn't treat Bailey Hongzhuang as a little girl who didn't know anything about the world. Who is this little girl? How could her aura be so extraordinary? I don't know, but since the guards brought her in, her identity must not be simple. Pang Tangping was originally driven out of the Imperial Academy of Medicine and was full of unwillingness. Now that the Imperial Academy of Medicine is helpless, he naturally wants to take revenge. I heard that after Pang Tangping left the Imperial Academy of Medicine, he met an expert who greatly improved his medical skills. If the Crown Prince is really cured by him, then Imperial Physician Ning and the others will have a hard time, alas. Voices of discussion rose and fell one after another. No one expected that the Crown Prince's illness would be so difficult to treat. It was completely beyond their understanding. They thought of many ways, but none of them worked. When Pang Tangping heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he only felt anger surge up. His right hand suddenly stretched out, ready to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. Her pretty face was covered with a layer of frost. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to teach Pang Tangping a lesson, Ning Hong blocked Pang Tangping's hand. Pang Tangping, you're also an elder, yet you want to attack a junior? Do you have any tolerance? Ning Hong's face was full of anger. He was the one who drove Pang Tangping out of the Imperial Academy of Medicine, and now Pang Tangping came here to behave atrociously. As long as he was here, he would not let Pang Tangping pollute the entire Imperial Academy of Medicine. Pang Tangping suddenly waved his hand and directly shook off Ning Hong's hand. I am no longer a member of the Imperial Academy of Medicine. You are not qualified to teach me a lesson. Seeing the two in a deadlock, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, You said that I am a greenhorn who doesn't understand medicine. Can you cure the crown prince's illness? Her cold voice was full of ridicule. She didn't understand where this guy got the confidence to spout such nonsense without even seeing Xin Yuan Huan's illness. Or were there too many idiots these days? Hearing this, Pang Tangping chuckled. He wouldn't fall for such a simple trick. If I can't cure the crown prince, you can't either. What if I cure him? The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curved slightly as she stared at Pang Tangping and asked, "What a joke." Pang Tangping's face was full of ridicule. "You're truly a newborn calf that isn't afraid of tiger. You've only grasped a little bit of it, and you think your medical skills are amazing. If you can cure the crown prince, then the sun will rise from the west." No matter how Pang Tangping mocked her, Bailey Hongzhuang did not get angry at all. She smiled sweetly and said, "Since you are so sure, why don't we make a bet?" "What bet?" "If I cure the crown prince, you will compensate me with 100,000 gold coins and apologize to all the doctors present." Her delicate, jade-like face was filled with confidence and pride, as if victory was already within her grasp. Her sparkling eyes were filled with provocation and arrogance. Just her aura alone was enough to surpass thousands. Pang Tangping wanted to agree to Bailey Hongzhuang's bet, but when he heard this bet, he swallowed the word "okay" that was stuck in his throat. 100,000 gold coins was not a small number. Even he would have to bet everything he had. Chapter 31. Ning Hong and the others were completely stunned. No one had expected that this little girl, who they thought was just fooling around, would make such a domineering bet. 100,000 gold coins. Almost no one present dared to make such a big bet, but when Bailey Hongzhuang asked Pang Tangping to apologize to everyone, they were moved. "Little girl, this bet of 100,000 gold coins is not a joke. Don't be impulsive," Ning Hong hurriedly advised. In his opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang was young and impetuous. She must have been angered by Pang Tangping's words and impulsively made such a bet. It would be fine if the other party was an ordinary tolerant elder, but Pang Tangping was not a kind person. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang lost today, Pang Tangping would definitely make Bailey Hongzhuang bankrupt. Seeing the concern in Ning Hong's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This imperial physician was stubborn and kind. He only reminded her because he didn't want her to suffer a heavy loss. "Senior, I know what I'm doing." Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Pang Tangping and said mockingly, "What? You don't dare?" "I dare. Why wouldn't I dare?" Pang Tangping's tone was unyielding. No matter how he looked, this little girl was only about 15 years old. How strong could her medical skills be? He had never heard of this little girl's reputation in the entire Feng Bo country. Since she was willing to lose, he would fulfill her wish. "If you lose, not only do you have to give me 100,000 gold coins, but you also have to kneel on the ground and call me grandfather." Pang Tangping's oily face cracked into a smile. He couldn't wait to see Bailey Hongzhuang kneel and beg for mercy. "Pang Tangping, don't go too far." Ning Hong was furious. This fellow was so serious with a junior. It was really despicable. "Ning Hong, this matter has nothing to do with you. Don't waste your breath here. It's better to think about how to protect your position." Pang Tangping sneered. "No problem, I agree." Bailey Hongzhuang's expression didn't change as she indifferently replied. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang agree so firmly, everyone's expression changed. In their opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang was bound to lose, but they were really curious about whether Pang Tangping could really cure the crown prince's illness. "Just prepare to kowtow and call me grandfather." Pang Tangping laughed maniacally before he turned around and walked straight into the hall. He had purposely waited until the group of doctors were at a loss before he appeared. He wanted to show off his great medical skills. Ever since he received the guidance of that expert, his medical skills had greatly improved. Now, he was known as the divine doctor in the entire Feng Bo country. Naturally, his self-confidence had swelled. Ning Hongzhuang and his group of trash were no match for him. Bailey Hongzhuang followed closely behind, entering Xin Yuan Huan's bedroom. "Master, can this guy cure Xin Yuan Huan?" Xiao Hei's voice was a little worried. If Pang Tangping really cured the crown prince, then Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curved into a faint smile. This is my own poison powder. Except for me, no one can cure it. She didn't think highly of herself, but she had a comprehensive understanding of the miasma powder. This was the poison powder she had painstakingly developed. The elders of the family had tried to detoxify it, but no one succeeded. Chapter 32. We've earned 100,000 gold coins. We'll have delicious food again. Xiao Bai said excitedly. Master, how are you going to teach this blind guy a lesson? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Her long and narrow eyes filled with a smile. Just 100,000 gold coins is enough to make Pang Tangping collapse. Not to mention this guy has already forced himself to a dead end. Pang Tangping despises all doctors. If he could cure Xianyuan Huan, then it would be a different story, but she was sure that he couldn't. When the time came, he would become a joke in everyone's eyes. Even if his medical skills were good, if he became a joke in everyone's eyes, how could he continue to mingle? Does this Pang Tangping not have a brain? Xiaohe was puzzled. If you want to brag, you have to be 100% sure you can do it. Otherwise, wouldn't you be courting death? In this world, there are always some idiots who can't be judged by common sense. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Pang Tangping had already begun to treat Xianyuan Huan. The moment Pang Tangping saw Xianyuan Huan, his fiery heart turned cold. Xianyuan Huan's whole body was covered with pustules, and his handsome face was now completely unrecognizable. His whole body was swollen, and his face was pale and thin. Obviously, it was caused by the torment of his illness. At this moment, Xianyuan Huan's eyes were tightly closed. After 3 days of pain, he could no longer make any sound. From his dispirited breath, it was easy to judge that his condition was very bad. If there was no treatment today, he wouldn't be able to survive the night. Ning Hongzhong and the others walked in a bedchamber. They wanted to see if Pang Tangping really had a way to cure Xianyuan Huan. Xianyuan Huan's illness was simply unimaginable. In all their experience, they had never encountered such a situation. Some people even suspected that the crown prince had done something bad and was cursed. Otherwise, how could he be in so much pain? Pang Tangping began to feel Xianyuan Huan's pulse. The original confident expression on his face disappeared and was replaced by a trace of panic. But he forcibly suppressed the fluctuations in his heart and began to examine Xianyuan Huan. However, everyone was keenly aware that Pang Tangping's hand began to tremble as he took Xianyuan Huan's pulse, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. In my opinion, this Pang Tangping most likely won't be able to diagnose the crown prince's illness. Look at how nervous he is. It's so funny. He's so arrogant when he doesn't have any real ability. What a fool. He deserved to be kicked out of the Imperial Hospital. There's going to be a good show to watch. I'm really looking forward to the situation where Pang Tangping can't cure it. Before Pang Tangping appeared, almost everyone hoped that the crown prince's illness could be cured quickly. But now, they were hoping that Pang Tangping would fail. After all, they were all people who devoted themselves to studying medicine. Now that they were collectively despised by Pang Tangping, who would feel good? Pang Tangping had previously unscrupulously mocked them. Now, they naturally wouldn't give Pang Tangping any face. What they wanted was for him to be put on the spot. Hearing the bursts of laughter behind him, Pang Tangping could not help but gulp. Over the years, he had seen many strange illnesses, but this was the first time he had seen this kind of illness. Not only that, but Xianyuan Huan's pulse was also extremely chaotic. He simply couldn't find out where the problem was. What kind of strange illness is this? Chapter 33. It seems that you won't be able to cure him. Bailey Hongzhuang's cold and indifferent voice came out of her mouth. Her delicate and beautiful face was outlined with a shallow smile, as she looked at Pang Tangping with a smile that was as beautiful as a painting. However, this beautiful smile in the eyes of others turned into undisguised ridicule in Pang Tangping's eyes. Previously, he was full of confidence, but now he was helpless. Wasn't this the same as slapping himself in the face? Who says I don't know how to cure him? Pang Tangping emphasized. The crown prince's condition is caused by poison. As long as he takes my all-purpose detoxification pill, he will definitely be cured. When he said this, Pang Tangping's heart was beating like a drum. Other than poison, there shouldn't be any other situation that would cause such a strange result. In any case, he couldn't think of a way to cure him. He could only treat a dead horse as a living horse and delay it for a while. In the next moment, Pang Tang Ping took out a black pill from his medicine box and prepared to give it to Xian Yuan Huan. At this time, a voice came from the crowd. "Don't feed him, Dr. Pang. I've already tried your all-purpose detoxification pill." Hearing this, everyone looked at the person who spoke, but that person didn't care and said, "I just thought that Dr. Pang's reputation is very famous, and I just happened to have his all-purpose detoxification pill, so I gave it to His Highness." That person spread out his hands. "However, it's useless." Pang Tongping's face instantly became extremely embarrassed. He just said that the pill would definitely cure the crown prince, but now it was exposed that it didn't have any effect. He didn't know what to do. A burst of laughter came from the crowd. Pang Tang Ping really didn't know how to get out of this situation. "Pang Tang Ping, it seems that your reputation as a divine doctor is just an undeserved reputation." After being ridiculed by Pang Tang Ping, Ning Hong naturally didn't mind stepping on Pang Tang Ping. Pang Tongping's face turned from pale to red, then from red to ashen. His whole body stiffened as he stood there, as if he had become mute. "Since you don't have the ability to cure him, don't be a hindrance." Bailey Hongzhuang spoke. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang speak, Pang Tangping seemed to have found a breakthrough. He quickly said, "I can't cure the crown prince, but can you cure him?" Pang Tangping also used the same method. He wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to agree in a fit of pique. The higher she was, the harder she would fall. At that time, she would fall into the same situation as him. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked at Pang Tangping, the corners of her mouth forming a faint arc looking at the pair of beautiful eyes that were as deep as a serene pool. The light of wisdom seemed to be able to penetrate his heart. Pang Tangping only felt that all his thoughts were exposed in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips hooked up. "I can." Pang Tangping, T-test to his eyes to the sea. Pang to his heart's his thought. T to help himself. How? Everyone secretly sighed. No one thought that Bailey Hongzhuang could cure the crown prince. They only lamented that this girl had forced him into this awkward situation. "If you can cure him, then you can." Pang Tangping sneered. "The older the ginger, the spicier it is." Bailey Hongzhuang's smile remained. She calmly walked to Xian Yuan Huan's bedside. Looking at the extremely weak Xian Yuan Huan, she didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt. Chapter 34. Pang Tangping sneered as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's pretentious act. In a while, she still wouldn't be able to do anything. He wanted to see how long this little girl would be able to show off her ability. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished taking the pulse, she began to examine the pustules on Xian Yuan Huan's body. Her beautiful face was full of seriousness. That meticulous and orderly appearance made everyone unable to help but give birth to an illusion. It was as if the person who was diagnosing the illness was not a young and inexperienced girl, but a doctor who had practiced medicine for many years. As soon as an expert made a move, Bailey Hongzhuang's demeanor could not help but spread out as she made her diagnosis. The people who originally looked down on Bailey Hongzhuang kept quiet. They want to know if Bailey Hongzhuang really had some methods. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped the movements of her hands and turned around. "Don't pretend. If you can't cure him, just admit it," Pang Tangping said sarcastically. This little girl's real ability was not much, but her ability to pretend was not weak. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked, "Who said I can't cure him?" "You can't, but that doesn't mean I can't." Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogant face, Pang Tangping became angry. "Then you treat him. If you can't cure him, you should obediently prepare 100,000 gold coins and apologize to the doctors." Shameless boasting. Ning Hong only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was very strange. Just from the way Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's diagnosis, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was taught by a famous teacher. But he really did not believe that this little girl could cure him. After all, she was still so young. "The crown prince is indeed poisoned," Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. "Who doesn't know this?" Pang Tang Ping said. He was just repeating what he said. There was no other explanation for the Crown Prince's illness other than being poisoned. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next words attracted everyone's attention. However, this one happened to have seen such a patient before. Therefore, I know the treatment method. When these words came out, the crowd went into an uproar. Bailey Hongzhuang actually knew the treatment method. At this moment, if she was still boasting shamelessly, then this Bailey Hongzhuang was really a fool. If she was not boasting shamelessly, then Bailey Hongzhuang took out the needle bag from the medicine box. Opening it, the silver needles of different lengths and thicknesses appeared in everyone's line of sight. Seeing this scene, the crowd's faces were filled with astonishment. This shouldn't be a lost acupuncture technique. The appearance of this silver needle is exactly the same. But the acupuncture technique has been lost for hundreds of years. Of the medical world continents, to the B, divine skills. Add S. It was a technique. Unfortunately, it had been lost for hundreds of years. They had only heard of its reputation, but had never seen it for themselves. The bag of needles that this little girl had taken out was clearly a bag of needles used for acupuncture. Ning Hong's eyes widened. This little girl, who he called mischievous, seemed to have some skills. Ignoring everyone's astonishment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly pulled out the silver needles from the bag and quickly and accurately pierced them into Xinyuan Huan's acupuncture points. Acupuncture was originally invented by her Lin family. She had mastered all the tricks. At this moment, treating Xinyuan Huan was naturally a piece of cake. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang perform acupuncture on Xinyuan Huan, everyone's hearts almost jumped to their throats. That was the Crown Prince. Chapter 35. Everyone's eyes were focused on Ning Hong's body, but Ning Hong only looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a serious expression on his face. He didn't try to stop her. As Bailey Hongzhuang pierced Xinyuan Huan's body with the silver needles, everyone was surprised to find that Xinyuan Huan didn't show any signs of discomfort. Over the past 3 days, they all understood that Xinyuan Huan was the most sensitive to pain, and even the slightest pain would wake him up. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang had pierced so many silver needles, but Xinyuan Huan didn't show any reaction, which proved that her methods weren't simple. Soon, Xinyuan Huan's body was covered with silver needles. Bailey Hongzhuang's hands formed a complicated seal. Then her right hand touched all the needles, and the silver needles began to tremble in front of everyone's shocked eyes. This is a miracle. No one knew who said the word miracle, but at this moment, everyone didn't care about it. Their minds were occupied with the lost art of acupuncture. In ancient books, it was recorded that there was also the vibrating needle technique, which was more effective than acupuncture. At this moment, what appeared in front of them was the legendary vibrating needle technique. Ning Hongzhuang's face was full of amazement, and a strong shock shook his heart. His lips squirmed as if he wanted to say something, but he couldn't say a word. As a doctor who was obsessed with medicine, there was nothing more ecstatic than seeing the long-lost art of acupuncture. Pang Tongping's mocking face had already frozen, and looking at the acupuncture, his heart was also shocked. Thinking of the scene where he ridiculed Bailey Hongzhuang, his expression was very funny. This was tantamount to a loud slap on his face. He kept saying that Bailey Hongzhuang was a girl who was still wet behind the ears, and that she had mastered a little bit of it, so she thought she was amazing. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang was a doctor who had mastered the art of acupuncture. If Bailey Hongzhuang only mastered a little bit of it, then didn't that mean that he didn't know any medical skills at all? At this moment, no one was paying attention to Pang Tongping's expression. All of their attention was on Bailey Hongzhuang. The silver needles continued to tremble, and Ning Hongzhuang and the others who were closer to Xinyuan Huan clearly noticed that the redness and swelling on Xinyuan Huan's body was showing signs of dissipating, and his wrinkled brows also relaxed a little. A touch of excitement uncontrollably climbed up Ning Hongzhuang's face. He thought that today they would all be buried with Xinyuan Huan, but he didn't expect that there was suddenly hope. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang took a look and took out a pen, writing a long list of medicinal herbs, and wrote, "Senior, you should be able to prepare it here, right?" Ning Hongzhong nodded without hesitation. No problem. We'll be ready right away. Then, S's quickly rushed in. It's the test. No one questioned Bailey Hongzhuang's judgment anymore, even if they still couldn't imagine that such a young person would have such outstanding medical skills. But a genius doctor was often incomprehensible to ordinary people. Xianyuan Huan, who was immersed in pain, suddenly felt the pain in his body lessen a little. He forced himself to open his eyes, and a blurry but stunning white figure appeared in his line of sight. At this moment, he felt as if he was looking at a fairy, so gentle, so beautiful. It was simply the person he yearned for in his dreams. Chapter 36. It wasn't until everything was done that everyone came back to their senses. Ning Hongzhong once again felt Xianyuan Huan's pulse, noticing that it was much more stable than before. "How should I address you, miss?" Ning Hongzhong asked politely. He no longer dared to treat Bailey Hongzhuang as an ordinary girl. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed. "Junior is Hongzhuang." For some reason, Ning Hongzhong felt ashamed when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang refer to herself as a junior. He had lived for so many years, yet he couldn't compare to this little girl. Hongzhuang. Everyone engraved this name in their hearts. She was a genius doctor who had mastered the art of acupuncture. "So it's Miss Hongzhuang." Ning Hongzhong smiled faintly. "Is Miss Hongzhuang from the Imperial City?" Junior came to the Imperial City not long ago. A few days ago, I opened Godly Doctor Square in the Imperial City. It can be said that I have taken root here. Bailey Hongzhuang's face rippled with an elegant and refined smile, like an elegant, blooming lotus, blooming with a charming and refreshing charm. Hearing the name Godly Doctor Square, everyone's expression became strange. Almost everyone had heard of Godly Doctor Square before, but they all thought it was a joke. After all, there was only a 15-year-old girl treating patients. Who would dare to see a doctor? So the young girl of Godly Doctor Square was Hongzhuang. Everyone now knew that Godly Doctor Square's name was not a joke, but a true name. On the contrary, they didn't even know the specific situation and looked down on Godly Doctor Square, which made them seem very stupid. So the Godly Doctor Square that has been the talk of the town recently is run by Miss Hongzhuang. Ning Hongzhong smiled kindly. So the real genius doctor was right in front of them. They really didn't have the ability to see the pearl. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her eyes, and her gaze fell on Pang Tangping. "Dr. Pang, you should have already prepared the bed, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Pang Tangping's face was already ugly to the extreme. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, it was dyed with a trace of paleness. 100,000 gold coins. That was his entire fortune. Who would have thought that after working so hard for so many years, it was all for someone else? "Pang Tangping, so many of us are watching you. You're not thinking of going back on your word, are you?" Ning Hongzhong asked in a deep voice. Pang Tangping's disturbance today had already made him very unhappy. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang had helped them solve such a big problem. Naturally, Ning Hongzhong would spare no effort to help Ning Hongzhong. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on Pang Tangping. They had been waiting for this moment. When Pang Tangping felt everyone's mocking and taunting gazes, he wished he could just run away. However, just as he was about to leave, there were already people blocking the entrance. It was as if they wouldn't let him leave until he paid up. "I didn't bring that much money with me today," Pang Tangping said angrily. "It doesn't matter. You can send it over another day." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "But the matter of apologizing can begin now. It just so happens that all the doctors are gathered here today. It'll be easier for you to apologize. Otherwise, if you come to apologize one by one another day, I don't think Dr. Pang has that much time." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was light and gentle. She didn't sound aggressive at all. Instead, she said that this was a very casual matter. She would give him 2 options to discuss. Chapter 37. Pang Tangping's swollen face was as gloomy as water. Faced with everyone's covetous gazes, Pang Tangping had no doubt that if he didn't apologize today, he wouldn't be able to walk out of the Eastern Palace on his feet. "I'm sorry." Pang Tangping squeezed out 3 words from between his teeth. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked in puzzlement, "What did you say?" You're speaking so softly. How can we hear you clearly? Hong Zhuang, don't go too far. Pang Tangping couldn't help but explode. He, who was usually sought after by many people, had been forced to such a state by an unknown little girl. It was simply unbearable. However, Pang Tangping's outburst didn't wait for Bailey Hong Zhuang to speak. Instead, Ning Hong and the others had already opposed him. Pang Tangping, if you don't apologize today, I guarantee that you'll walk out of the Easter Palace's gates. Ning Hong's power exploded. Previously, he had swallowed his anger because of the Crown Prince's illness. He was afraid that angering Pang Tangping would cause the Crown Prince to lose the chance to be cured. Now that Pang Tangping couldn't cure the Crown Prince, the Imperial Academy of Medicine wasn't something that a country doctor could provoke. Pang Tangping clenched his teeth and refused to relent. He finally understood that his reputation was completely ruined after today. Seeing this, Ning Hong didn't waste any more time. He waved his hand and summoned the guards. He immediately charged Pang Tangping with the crime of causing trouble and prepared to throw him into prison. Pang Tangping began to feel afraid when he saw this. Once he was thrown into prison, he wouldn't be able to cry for help. Wait, Pang Tangping hurriedly said. Ning Hong's right hand paused as he looked at Pang Tangping coldly. I apologize. Pang Tangping accepted his fate. When he said this, he was like a deflated balloon. He no longer had his previous arrogance and pride. Ning Hong waved his hand and signaled for the guards to retreat. I'm sorry, Pang Tangping shouted in shame and anger. After saying this, he didn't want to stay here any longer and quickly walked out. Ning Hong didn't stop Pang Tangping from leaving. He believed that this guy wouldn't dare to cause trouble in the Imperial Academy of Medicine again. Miss Hong Zhuang, don't worry. I'll send someone to keep an eye on Pang Tangping. I won't let him go back on his word. Ning Hong's voice was soft and gentle. When the time comes, I'll send someone to deliver the 100,000 gold coins to Godly Doctor Square. Thank you, Senior. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. Ning Hongzhong's suggestion had saved her a lot of trouble. Naturally, it was followed by a wave of congratulations. Everyone wanted to get closer to Bailey Hong Zhuang. After all, she was a doctor who had mastered the art of acupuncture. If they could learn a thing or two from her, their identities would change completely. Seeing the enthusiasm of the crowd, Bailey Hong Zhuang found an excuse to leave the Eastern Palace. She was not used to such a scene. After leaving the East Palace, Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. Today's harvest is really good. I got another 100,000 gold coins for no reason. As long as she could get her hands on these 200,000 gold coins, she wouldn't have to worry about her cultivation resources for a short period of time. The day of the Imperial family's hunt was not far away. She had to improve her cultivation as soon as possible. Master is wise. Xiaobai praised. She didn't expect that earning money would be so easy. Bailey Hong Zhuang laughed heartily. Let's go. I'll take you to eat and drink well today. Chapter 38. The news from within the palace gradually spread to the outside. Only then did everyone know that the illness that all the doctors were helpless against was cured by Miss Hong Zhuang of Godly Doctor Square. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and Godly Doctor Square became famous. In a short period of time, everyone in the Imperial City knew that Miss Hong Zhuang of Godly Doctor Square had outstanding medical skills. She had even mastered the long-lost art of acupuncture. Many people were ashamed that they had failed to recognize MT Tai previously. Such a great opportunity had been placed in front of them, but they did not cherish it. Now, they could only feel sad. Godly Doctor Square was as busy as a marketplace, and business was booming. It had become the most popular clinic in the Imperial City. There was no other. Godly Doctor Square. Ji Wenbin looked at the booming business, and his brain could not react. A few days ago, Godly Doctor Square had no business at all, which made him very worried. He did not expect that in just a few days, Godly Doctor Square's reputation would spread to every corner of the city. This was not what shocked him the most. What shocked him the most was that at such a young age, Bailey Hong Zhuang had mastered the long-lost art of acupuncture. Thinking back to Bailey Hong Zhuang's confident expression when she mentioned Godly Doctor Square, He finally understood that all along, Bailey Hongzhuang had a card up her sleeve. It was just that he did not believe it. Miss Hongzhuang, I did not expect your medical skills to be so good. I was blind before. Ji Wenbin was a little embarrassed. That day, he only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was being ridiculous, so his attitude was not very good. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and waved her hand. Big brother Ji, I also know that my appearance is not convincing. You only said that for my sake. Hearing this, Ji Wenbin's awkwardness dissipated. He really did admire Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's business was booming, he was also happy for Bailey Hongzhuang. Big brother G, Godly Dr. Square has been too busy recently. I can't handle it alone. I want to hire a few attendants to help. Do you have any recommendations? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask. She had originally planned to only treat 3 patients a day after she received the reward. After all, the most important thing for her was cultivation, and earning money was just to pave the way for cultivation. Seeing that business was booming these 2 days, she had other plans in her mind. She might as well expand the medical center. She concocted some universal detoxification pills and sold them in the shop. She only needed to invite a few people to help her, and she could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Coincidentally, when the old doctor left, he still had 2 disciples. Although their medical skills are not considered superb, they have no problem dealing with some common illnesses. At least, they are much better than some laymen. What's his character like? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Most of the patients she would come in contact with at Godly Dr. Square in the future would be high-ranking officials and dignitaries. If the attendant's character was not good, it would be quite troublesome. Ji Wenbin also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was worried. He immediately waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, I also know them. There's no problem with their character." Seeing that Ji Wenbin was so certain, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "All right, call them over tomorrow." Ji Wenbin was slightly startled. "Don't you need to take a look?" "Big brother Ji, I don't have to worry about the people you recommend." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled like a flower. Whether it was Ji Wenbin or the old doctor, they were both honest people. She believed that the 2 disciples' character would not be bad either. Looking at that bright and beautiful face, Ji Wenbin's face also broke into a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's conduct and actions always gave people a comfortable feeling. Chapter 39. While the 2 were talking, a deep and affectionate voice was heard, "Miss Hongzhuang." Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and saw Ning Hongzhuang's smiling face. She immediately walked out and cupped her hands. "Imperial Physician Ning, why have you come in person?" "Thanks to Miss Hongzhuang, the Crown Prince's illness is no longer a problem." Ning Hongzhuang waved his hand, and the servant behind him immediately took out a red package and handed it to Ning Hongzhuang with both hands. "I'm here today to give you the reward." Bailey Hongzhuang took the Chinquin bag. She originally wanted to buy a Chinquin bag after she got the reward, but she didn't expect to get one so soon. A Chinquin bag was only the size of a purse on the surface, but it had its own space inside. With a Chinquin bag, it would be much more convenient to travel, but it was expensive and ordinary people couldn't afford it. "I'll put the 100,000 gold coins that Peng Tangping owes you in it, so it's a total of 200,000 gold coins." "Thank you, Imperial Physician Ning." Bailey Hongzhuang thanked him. Ji Wenbin looked at this scene and sighed with emotion. 200,000 gold coins was money that many people couldn't get in their lifetime. "Miss Ning, His Majesty appreciates you very much and specially sent me to ask if you have any intention to enter the palace as an imperial physician." Ning Hongzhuang asked. "I promise that as long as you come to the Imperial Physician Hospital, we won't interfere with your business." If they could recruit such a talent into the Imperial Physician Hospital, the Imperial Physician Hospital's strength would be greatly enhanced. Ji Wenbin was pleasantly surprised. The Imperial Physician Hospital was a place that many doctors wanted to enter but couldn't. With Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills, she would definitely live a life of glory and wealth after entering the Imperial Physician Hospital. The other patients were envious and disappointed at the same time. Once Bailey Hongzhuang entered the Imperial Physician Hospital, they wouldn't have the opportunity to seek treatment. However, to their surprise, Bailey Hongzhuang politely declined. Thank you for His Majesty's appreciation and Imperial Physician Ning's good intentions, but I have no intention of entering the Imperial Physician Hospital. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Ning Hongzhuang was slightly startled. Miss Hongzhuang, why is that? Being in a palace is not as free and unfettered as being outside, so I plan to run Godly Dr. Square well. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. She didn't have any good impression of the Imperial Physician Palace. She hated both the Emperor and Emperor Xinyuan Huan, not to mention working for them. Lady Hongzhuang, with your medical skills, it's a waste for you to be a traveling doctor here. Obviously, he had a talent, so he tried his best, trying his best to persuade her. But Imperial Physician Hospital, Imperial Physician, thank you. But seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's determination, Ning Hong sighed slightly. All right, if you want to join the Imperial Hospital, you can come find me at any time. Thank you. After Ning Hongzhuang left, Ji Wenbin asked doubtfully Miss Hongzhuang's. Joining the Imperial Physician Hospital is much better than opening a clinic outside. Why did you give up such a great opportunity? Big Brother Ji, to be honest, opening a clinic is just my side job. Bailey Hongzhuang explained with a smile. Side job? Ji Wenbin didn't understand. Then what is your main job? Cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang answered matter-of-factly. I'm a cultivator.